Waking up in her crib, the tiny Dublade realizes she has regressed once more. Entwined in golden chains, the ash-blonde girl reflects on her 3 tragic past lives. In her first life, she was a commoner discarded after the true child appeared. Her second life brought only misery and abuse at the hands of a cruel scholar. After fleeing her tormentors, Dublade spent her final days as a cold, lonely beggar. Linda presents adoption choices to Dublade, who vows to avoid another life of misfortune. Looking at noble portraits, Dublade rejects several candidates while plotting her next move. Peeking from behind a servant, Dublade searches for a father who can fund her escape. She targets the wealthy and villainous Duke Dublade as her ticket to a safe future. A sudden, sharp stare sounding, the silver-haired Duke fixes his gaze on the trembling child. The Duke declares Dublade's cuteness, leaving the surrounding staff paralyzed with sheer terror. Henri suggests getting Dublade a sibling, while the angry Ishak demands to know her tormentor. Henry's claim that Dublade will marry him leaves the other boys in a state of shock. Dublade is baffled as 3 mysterious, costumed individuals suddenly appear before her in the garden. A mysterious blonde boy with striking red eyes emerges from the foliage, surprising the young girl. Surrounded by her new, powerful family, Dublade wonders if she can truly defect from them. Under the watchful eyes of the temple, the girl spends her early years immersed in rigorous, demanding academic studies. Sunlight fills the grand nursery where baby Dublade sleeps peacefully in her golden crib. Peering over her crib, the blue-eyed child is startled to see her own infant reflection. Dublade panics as she confirms that she has indeed returned to her younger self again. A holy prophecy revealed through stained glass foretells a savior born on February 29th. Faithful followers of the Holy Order kneel in prayer, awaiting the arrival of the promised child. Empire searchers roam the land, inspecting every child to find the one marked by gods. The hunt continues as officials meticulously check newborns for signs of the prophecy's fulfillment. A silver-haired official observes an orphanage, hoping to find the child with divine power. The searchers finally discover their target, grasping a small hand with a sense of triumph. Lifting baby Dublade, the officials proclaim her as the prophesied child of the leap day. Dublade is taken to the capital to be adopted by a high-ranking noble family. Under the temple's strict guidance, the young girl spends her childhood studying ancient holy texts. A sudden, sharp fling sounding, the indicator shows Dublade's divine power remains dangerously low. As an adult, Dublade is consumed by shadows after failing to manifest God's inscription. Abandoned by the Holy Order, the failed savior falls into the hands of cruel humans. The scene shifts as Dublade recalls her different, mundane path as a schoolgirl. Branded a fake, Dublade faces the dark truth of her position within the holy hierarchy. Sacrificed to seal an evil god, Dublade reaches out in despair during her final moments. A sudden, loud dang sounding, the clock turns back as Dublade's life resets once more. A sudden, sharp gasp sounding, Dublade wakes up in her bed, clutching her chest. Rejoicing in her crib, the small girl thanks God for this unexpected second chance. Realizing she has regressed to age 4, Dublade resolves to change her fate. From behind the crib bars, Dublade prepares for the arrival of the Dowager Empress. A sudden, cheerful ta-da sounding, Linda and the other maids present candidates for her adoption. Dublade considers the righteous Duke Amiti, known as the Empire's champion and safeguard. She reviews Duke Valois, a man of distinguished scholarly lineage, but questionable character. Finally, she views the notorious Duke Dublade, a man of immense wealth and military might. Remembering Duke Amiti, Dublade recalls his reputation as a kind man who loved his people. A young Dublade prepared a thank you letter, hoping to win the Duke's genuine affection. A sudden soft thump sounding, her heart races as Duke Amiti approaches her in the hallway. Despite her efforts, Dublade feels a cold, insurmountable wall between herself and the Duke. Clutching her rejected letter, the orphan girl struggles with her deep desire for a father. A young woman expresses her admiration for the Duke, surrounding the scene with flowers. Dublade realizes the Duke only took her in because she resembled his late first love. Walking with her family, Dublade expresses her childhood dream of becoming a daughter her father can take pride in. Her memories darken as she recalls being pushed aside, a mere shadow to her family's happiness. Captions describe her life as an unwanted burden before she screams a desperate denial from behind bars. An enraged man in a white and red cloak screams that she is worse than an animal. Disowned and accused of a crime she didn't commit, Dublade kneels before her cold, distant father. Her father ruthlessly demands she turn herself in as she begs for mercy with tear-filled eyes. A final, heartless command echoes in the darkness, ordering her to sacrifice her life for the world. As her spirit leaves her body, a skeletal Grim Reaper offers a grim welcome to her first death. A sudden, brilliant light erupts as Dublade wakes up in a crib, having faced her first regression. Now a toddler, an annoyed Dublade glares at a document, questioning why she was brought back again. Determined to change her fate, Leblanc decides that her second life will be spent approaching the villain. She recalls another family's seemingly affectionate welcome, knowing their smiles hid a much darker, cruel reality. Shadowy figures loom as a man shouts about her failure to decipher the words of the gods. With a cold gaze, a dark-haired woman orders the girl's removal as a sharp slap rings out. An enraged man in a red uniform lunges forward, screaming that she is completely and utterly useless. A confused Grim Reaper watches as Leblanc falls toward her second death in a new life. Powerless and small, Leblanc freezes to death on a snowy road, leaving the Reaper feeling quite frustrated. Yet another death finds her spirit ascending as she huddles in the snow, clutching a tattered paper. Pondering her limited options, Leblanc realizes she cannot escape or approach the other powerful dukes nearby. With a determined look and a quick swish sounding, she decides there is only one path left. Three maids look on in absolute shock and bewilderment at the young girl's sudden, strange behavior. Leblanc stares with wide, glittering blue eyes while tugging on a sleeve, hoping her acting is convincing. Captions introduce the Duke of Dublade, the Empire's wealthiest villain, standing tall amidst a sea of roses. A brown-haired aide nervously informs the Duke of a request from the Empress Dowager regarding the child. The silver-haired Duke coldly dismisses the request, claiming the old woman has finally lost her mind. Recognizing his overwhelming aura, Leblanc observes the imposing Duke from behind the safety of his aide. A decorative frame highlights the Duke's status as a villain possessing the greatest wealth in the Empire. Completely won over by his presence, Leblanc awards the Duke a perfect score for his incredible charm. The aide warns that rejecting the Empress is risky, while Leblanc plays the part of a terrified child. Watching him walk away, she concludes that neither the Church nor the Empress can control this man. Focused on her survival, she realizes she must secure a place in this house overflowing with riches. Wearing sunglasses and carrying a suitcase, Leblanc gleefully imagines fleeing the Empire with a massive fortune. Relaxing on a tropical beach, Leblanc envisions her true goal, a life of absolute luxury and comfort. She plots to stick close to the Duke of Dublade to build her future wealth and security. Leblanc boldly announces the specific date of a tax-free inheritance, startling everyone with her unexpected knowledge. The aide is utterly stunned as Leblanc suggests the Duke simply didn't understand her complex financial statement. Fearing her cover is blown, Leblanc frets over her poor toddler pronunciation and slow developmental pace. With a sudden, quick grab sounding, a small hand reaches out and catches onto the Duke's clothing. The Duke is shocked that a 4-year-old child knows the details of a tax-free inheritance date. Leblanc places a finger to her lips, asking for a secret with a gentle shh sounding. The Duke stares down at the small girl with intense blue eyes, trying to gauge her true intentions. With a nervous but determined expression, Leblanc looks up and insists that she can be useful. The Duke inquires about the ledgers while his aide remains deeply skeptical of the toddler's wild claims. Recalling a memory of men arguing over tax laws, Leblanc predicts Dublade will suffer massive financial losses. The Duke questions her knowledge of tax audits while the aide rushes off to verify her information. Leblanc looks up at the towering Duke, wondering if her daring gamble to impress him actually worked. Sitting on his throne, the Duke insults her scent while ordering a bath for the scrawny girl. Leblanc panics, fearing they are cleaning her up just to send her away in a rejected box. Seeing the Duke walking away, Leblanc sprints toward him with every ounce of her small child's strength. With a sudden, soft thud sounding, Leblanc lunges forward and clings tightly to the Duke's leg. The silver-haired man questions the orange-haired girl as she clings tightly to him. Surrounded by flowers, the young girl erupts into a fit of pure, innocent laughter. Clearly exasperated, the silver-haired man instructs the clinging child to stop making a fuss. Haunted by memories of a past life, she vows never to die or regress again. Clinging for survival, she resolves to never again entertain the foolish hope of being loved. A tender moment unfolds as the girl hugs the man with a sweet, content smile. The silver-haired man carries the dangling girl, his expression one of weary but quiet acceptance. Adopting a cunning expression, the small girl focuses on making her target take the bait. The Empire of Wigzentra stands as a beacon of power, boasting the world's most vast territory. Under the golden light of the state religion, Nereid, the nation's spiritual foundation remains absolute. The imperial family sits atop a hierarchy of hooded priests and ancient golden power structures. Elegance and tradition define the women of high standing within this complex and regal society. Beneath the crown, 5 powerful ducal houses maintain the delicate balance of the empire's nobility. Violence erupts in a crimson haze as warriors fall in a brutal and bloody conflict. Shadows loom over the fallen nobility as the era of the 5 ducal houses nears collapse. Wielding a blood-stained sword, the silver-haired man walks through the darkness with chilling intensity. A single, formidable family emerges as the absolute pillar of power within the shifting empire. Seated upon his throne, the cold-blooded leader reflects on the weight of his tremendous family. An orange-haired girl sits quietly, adorned with a sign designating her as an honored guest. Relieved she wasn't cast out, the young girl prepares to stay within the fortress walls. After being questioned about her knowledge, the girl cheerfully points toward the ancient Orichalcum plains. A heavy, suspicious silence fills the room as the men loom over the small child. Phew, the men are suddenly won over, giving enthusiastic thumbs up to the clever girl. Amazed by her intelligence, the man questions how a child could be so remarkably clever. The men gossip amongst themselves, convinced that the girl is surely a fabled child of destiny. While the adults are amazed, the girl privately admits to herself that her act is fake. Her ambition remains high when well-fed, but hunger instantly transforms her into a needy infant. Gasp! The young girl is startled as the man's hand reaches out toward her suddenly. Seeking safety, the small girl retreats back into the arms of the silver-haired man. The officials marvel at how the supposedly shy girl clings exclusively to his grace's lap. Though her trauma makes her fear men, she finds her connection to the Duke strangely comfortable. The silver-haired man commands her to sit down, and she obediently agrees to his request. As the sun sets, the spires of the grand castle are bathed in a warm, golden glow. Grateful for her stories, the dark-haired man with the mustache offers the girl a candy. While the men discuss her cuteness, the girl struggles intently with the stubborn candy wrapper. The Duke's hand intervenes, reaching down to take the candy away from the struggling child. Shocked and tearful, she internally berates the villainous man for stealing a poor child's treat. To her immense surprise, the man simply unwraps the candy and places it in her mouth. He offers her more sweets in exchange for information regarding the secrets of his family. The loyal young girl firmly shakes her head, refusing to betray the man who took her in. When questioned why, she proudly declares that she is firmly on the side of the Duke. A rare and genuine smile touches the lips of the usually cold silver-haired man. Stunned by the Duke's sudden smile, the maid receives orders to escort the young lady away. He sternly warns the maid to keep the girl from wandering noisily through the castle halls. Surrounded by vibrant roses, a hopeful thought suggests that even a cold-blooded man might be fine. The castle staff pampers her with puzzles, food, and even an unconventional offer for horseback riding. Basking in the attention and sweets, the young girl happily concludes that this place is heaven. She enjoys her treats and games in the sun while a small horse trots nearby. The girl runs joyfully toward the headmaid, who is delighted to see the child happy. After confessing she likes Ringda most, she celebrates the successful subjugation of the influential maid. The orange-haired girl offers candy to Dahlia, the blonde maid, with a sweet smile. Amidst blooming roses, Dahlia wonders why she alone receives such a precious treat. The clever girl whispers a secret, successfully winning the blonde snack manager's art. Clinging to the injured pink-haired maid, the young girl expresses her deep-seated sadness. Another secret whispered earns the unwavering affection of the moved, pink-haired sister. The maids are completely smitten as the girl strikes a confident, heart-stealing pose. Behind her cute facade, the orange-haired girl smirks, plotting her survival within the household. A gentle, black-haired maid arrives to announce that it is time for a nap. Rumors of her low divine power cast a dark, somber shadow over the lonely girl. The black-haired maid fiercely defends the girl, silencing those who dare gossip about her. Tucking the girl in, the kind maid wishes her the sweetest of drinks. Safe and warm, the orange-haired girl drifts into a peaceful, deep slumber. The grand castle spires stand silent and majestic under the vast, starry night sky. A sudden awakening occurs as a loud, persistent stomach gurgle breaks the quiet night. Chibi-style Dublade sits up, her hunger making a noisy, rumbling protest sounding. Panicking, she realizes her starvation is making it impossible to maintain her adult composure. While the maids let her rest, Dublade wakes up in tears, overwhelmed by hunger. Peeking through the massive doors, the hungry child searches for her mother and food. Driven by impulse, she sneaks down the dark corridor despite the risks involved. Her small form scampers through the shadows of the silent moonlit hallway. Desperate for a meal, Dublade stuffs bread into her mouth in the dark kitchen. Shocked maids discover the girl, questioning if a beggar is living in her stomach. A painful memory of a food skewer and past starvation flickers through her mind. A frantic thought of starving to death pulses with intense crimson urgency. Terrified and trembling, Dublade finds her adult logic failing in the face of fear. She searches every corner of the dark castle, determined to find a midnight snack. Scrambling under furniture and through halls, the child continues her stealthy food hunt. A single loaf of bread sits illuminated like a treasure in the dark room. Joy erupts as she hugs the bread, finally succeeding in her desperate mission. Clutching her prize, she hurries back to her room to eat in safety. A sudden, heavy impact sends a shock through the bread-clutching child. She looks up from the floor, greeted by an imposing, shadowed presence. The cold-eyed Duke stands over her, his expression unreadable in the moonlight. A flash of lightning reveals the terrifying figure of the Duke looming above her. Paralyzed with fear, Leblanc trembles on the floor, her blue eyes wide with terror. A story of a man punished for bread stealing suddenly flashes through her mind. She recalls the tale of Jean Valjean, who suffered greatly for a simple loaf. The grim realization that he was executed fills her with a chilling, morbid dread. A mental image of a guillotine falling cements her absolute terror of being caught. Cowering on the red carpet, she frantically wonders how to escape this dire situation. The Duke's piercing blue eye fixes on her, demanding to know her business. Prostrating herself, she fears for her life as the Duke suspects her motives. He leans down, questioning if she truly is the fabled child of destiny. Terrified, she tearfully confirms her identity, hoping it will spare her from his wrath. The Duke expresses his hatred for liars and those who feign innocence for favor. He strokes his chin with a menacing smirk, contemplating how to handle the child. Bawling and begging for forgiveness, she admits her wrong to the cold, calculating man. With an intense gaze, the silver-haired man demands to know what she has taken. Shivering and crying, the small girl confesses that she has indeed stolen something. He guesses at money or relics while the girl continues to shake her head. Trembling, Leblanc wonders if the Duke suspects her of seeking out military secrets. The Duke leans in close, his imposing presence looming over the terrified, bread-clutching child. Losing his patience, the silver-haired man roars for her to finally speak the truth. Leblanc bursts into a fit of desperate tears, terrified her hunger led to execution. In a moment of self-pity, the child imagines herself as the stolen bread. Witnessing the child's distress, the household maids look on with profound heartbreak and sympathy. Leblanc sobs while eating as the Duke watches, his initial anger replaced by observation. Forget-me-not flowers bloom nearby as the heavy atmosphere in the room begins to shift. Leah explains that the girl missed her meal because she fell asleep too early. The Duke realizes with quiet shock that she was eating bread intended for disposal. Overwhelmed by guilt, the maids feel utter shame for neglecting the young girl's needs. Reaching out, the Duke attempts to comfort the girl, but his hand hesitates. Paralyzed by past trauma, Leblanc flinches and retreats into the arms of the maid. A cold breeze of awkwardness sweeps through the room as the girl avoids him. The Duke watches with confusion, wondering why she no longer clings to him willingly. Clinging to Leah, Leblanc admits she doesn't hate the Duke despite her intense fear. Memories of starvation resurface, reminding her of the chilling terror she felt moments ago. Leah holds the sobbing child tightly, providing the warmth and protection she so desperately needs. In a protective frenzy, the staff vows to ensure the baby finishes her meal. A sudden, sharp hiccup sounding breaks the heavy silence among the stunned servants. The Duke's blue eyes glow with intense focus as he contemplates the girl's reaction. A synchronous, heavy gulp sounding escapes the staff under the Duke's chilling presence. Yielding to the situation, the silver-haired man softly relents and allows them to leave. Seizing the opportunity, the maids and Leblanc dash away from the Duke in haste. Recalling the terrifying ordeal, Leah is praised by her fellow mates for her immense bravery. Feeling small, Leblanc offers a sincere, tearful apology for her constant and nagging hunger. A gentle, comforting hand reaches out to touch the orange-haired girl's shoulder. Leah embraces the child, her heart filled with affection for the sweet, lonely little girl. Leblanc's large blue eyes shimmer with tears as she begins to feel truly safe. The grand spires of the castle shine under the bright, hopeful light of a new morning. Stepping out onto the red carpet, Leblanc cheerfully greets the staff with a bright smile. The smitten maids are instantly won over by her pure and heart-melting morning greeting. Spotting the Duke in the hallway, Leblanc's cheerful mood is replaced by sudden, cautious dread. Fearful of being cast out, she tries to sneak past the men without being noticed. A sharp gasp of surprise escapes her as realization hits that she's been spotted. The brown-haired aide encourages the cold Duke to try calling the young girl by name. Pouting, Leblanc remains convinced that the distant Duke doesn't even know who she is. The aide greets her warmly, but the girl's attention remains fixed on the approaching Duke. The Duke pauses at the massive doors, casting a mysterious glance back at the child. A sudden, magical feeling of blooming flowers fills the hallway as their eyes meet. Surprised by her presence, the Duke looks at Leblanc with a new sense of curiosity. Reaching into his jacket, the silver-haired man announces he has a gift for her. Surrounded by vibrant flora, Leblanc waits with bated breath to see what he offers. Leblanc is left bewildered as the Duke suddenly disappears behind the large doors. Dark memories of being locked up resurface as a loud, metallic hammer sounding. The Duke's aide watches with concern, noticing Leblanc's suspicious and deeply confused expression. Time stands still as the Duke clearly speaks her name, leaving the child utterly stunned. Leblanc stands frozen in the hallway, her heart racing after being acknowledged by her name. Pink roses bloom in the sunlight, reflecting the softening heart of the once cold Duke. To her delight, the Duke offers her more sweets and promises many more await. LeBlaine stares in disbelief at the sweet candy resting in her palm. Her large eyes sparkle with joy as she gazes upon the precious treats. A mountain of delectable cookies and pastries appears like a sugary dream. The Duke overwhelms the small girl with a literal sea of raining sweets. Countless varieties of cookies pile up, creating a paradise for the hungry child. LeBlaine's jaw drops as she witnesses the incredible gift of endless treats. She dives into the cookies, munching happily as the men watch her silently. The young girl feels like she has stepped into a magical fairy tale. Generously, she offers a treat to the Duke, unwilling to feast alone. Watching her stuff her face, the Duke compares her to a hungry squirrel. He smirks at her annoyance, finding her pouting face quite amusing. With a playful pinch, the Duke teases her about her puffy, stuffed cheeks. LeBlanc offers a bright, gap-toothed smile, thanking the silver-haired man for his kindness. A rare, genuine smile softens the Duke's features as he watches her. The household maids excitedly prepare LeBlanc for her upcoming social debut. Leah catches the girl sneaking extra candy, reminding her of their sugary promise. An old vassal presents LeBlanc with a charming gray elephant-shaped bag. Secretly, the orange-haired girl decides the bag is perfect for her future escape. A delicate blue ribbon is placed carefully atop LeBlanc's bright orange hair. Maids fawn over her cuteness while mentioning a potential new friend to sponsor. The sponsorship system is revealed as a method for nobles to scout talent. Gifted children are groomed into ideal family members for the powerful sponsors. These children receive elite education and resources to sharpen their natural abilities. They are integrated into high society to serve the interests of their sponsors. Massive wealth flows toward these selected youths to ensure their absolute loyalty. LeBlanc looks thoughtful considering the implications of this cold, calculated social system. Leah beams with pride as she finishes dressing the adorable little lady. Walking down the red carpet, LeBlanc prepares to meet the other sponsored children. A blonde boy named Jude impresses the noblemen by memorizing all their names. LeBlanc performs a perfect, graceful curtsy, charming every adult in the room. The noblemen are instantly captivated by the girl's polite and heart-melting greeting. Horror strikes as LeBlanc recognizes the blonde boy from her previous life. She recalls Jude as a truly vile person who ruined her past reputation. Flashbacks reveal her older self at the academy, focused on her studies. A blonde professor from her past once lured her into a trap. The man creepily praised her grades while invading her personal space. He schemed to marry into power, using LeBlanc as his intended target. After he attempted to force himself on her, she bravely reported his actions. The villainous man lied, claiming that LeBlanc was the one who seduced him. He gaslit the academy, arguing her delayed report proved she enjoyed the attention. Isolated and misunderstood, LeBlanc stood alone against a wall of judging eyes. He cruelly taunted her, mocking for silence during his predatory advances. Paralyzed by terror and trauma, she had been unable to even scream. Her cries for justice were ignored, resulting in only a minor punishment. Labeled as promiscuous, she was unfairly expelled while the true predator remained. In the present, LeBlanc's small fist trembles with a burning, righteous fury. She tries to stay calm, knowing this Jude is still just a child. Jude boasts about his fake genius, claiming to have mastered complex formulas. LeBlanc knows his father secretly cheated to maintain the boy's hollow reputation. The arrogant boy sits smugly, unaware his victim plans her ultimate revenge. The blonde boy smirks monotonously, taunting the orange-haired girl with a look of pure malice. Leaning in close, Jude cruelly whispers that a fake like LeBlanc can never defeat him. LeBlanc stares blankly, internally mocking the fact that a child feels threatened by a toddler. Channeling her inner monk, the girl decides to peacefully ignore the boy's annoying taunts. Jude sneers, claiming the Empress Dowager threw LeBlanc away into the trash heap of Dublade. The boy's insults continue as LeBlanc reflects on the foolishness of her previous naive lives. Memories of her past self's helplessness resurface, reminding her of the silence she once endured. A spark of defiance ignites in her blue eyes as she refuses to be silent again. Proclaiming her current life is different, LeBlanc delivers a sudden and powerful punch to Jude's face. She unleashes a rapid-fire combo of punches, determined to teach the arrogant boy a lesson. In a triumphant imaginary boxing ring, LeBlanc is declared the winner by her adoring staff. A sudden, loud bang sounding erupts as the blonde man demands to know what just happened. Jude's father rushes to comfort his crying son, who blubbers about being attacked by the girl. With a sudden, sharp snap sounding, LeBlanc points her finger upward, ready to deliver her rebuttal. The orange-haired girl points an accusatory finger at the cowering boy, her expression cold and stern. The household staff looks on in confusion as the small girl prepares to speak her truth. LeBlanc boldly repeats the boy's insults, claiming she only came here because Dublade is twash. A heavy, stunned silence falls over the grand room as everyone processes her shocking statement. Worried she overplayed her hand, Leblanc wonders if her dramatic acting was a mistake after all. Overwhelmed by her perceived innocence, the staff weeps with joy, calling her a magnificent angel. Leblanc looks utterly bewildered by the staff's bizarrely positive reaction to her bold claims. Panicking, Jude's father desperately insists his son would never say such horrible things about Dublade. The atmosphere shifts as a cold question hangs in the air regarding the truth of the situation. Radiating a chilling and protective aura, the silver-haired Duke appears to defend his young ward. Jude's father stammers out excuses, trying to frame his son's vile insults as a mistake. The Duke's blue eyes glow with intensity as he offers the boy a chance to explain. He leans in, threatening severe punishment if the boy dares to lie in his presence. Paralyzed by the Duke's crushing pressure, Jude realizes there is no escape from the truth. With a terrifying, divine-like focus, the Duke demands to know if his child's words were true. Trembling and sweating, the boy struggles to find his voice under the Duke's piercing gaze. Leblanc watches the cowering boy, certain that he won't dare lie to the imposing silver-haired man. Jude finally breaks, admitted through his tears that everything Leblanc said was the truth. Panic-stricken, the blonde man grabs his son Marco as their web of lies completely unravels. Throwing himself to the floor, the man begs the Duke for mercy after admitting his son's sin. With a sharp, dismissive tap sounding, the Duke coldly orders his guards to remove the offenders. Guards ruthlessly haul away the screaming man and his wailing son as they beg for forgiveness. The grand castle spires glow in the morning sun as the morning's drama finally subsides. The Duke's aides gush with admiration, praising Leblanc for her confident and magnificent stand. Leblanc imagines her past self being mocked, contrasting her former misery with her current victory. She plays the part of the humble guest, pretending she never meant to cause a scene. Recalling Jude's insult, Leblanc knows his biggest mistake was calling Dublade a pile of trash. Her pouting face hides a fierce loyalty as she refuses to tolerate any insults toward Dublade. In her mind, she delivers one final, satisfying kick to Jude's face to defend her home. Leblanc smiles cutely, feeling pleased despite a tiny, mischievous prick of her conscience. The Duke's aides look on with hearts in their eyes, completely won over by her charm. Peering up at the Duke, Leblanc wonders if she's successfully made a good impression on him. The Duke's hand reaches out toward the girl as he finds her behavior utterly adorable. A sharp flinch of surprise escapes Leblanc as she reacts to the approaching black-haired aide. The aides whisper among themselves, noting that the shy girl only seems comfortable with the Duke. The green-haired aide smiles warmly, certain that Leblanc's heart belongs entirely to his master. The silver-haired Duke reflects on the ignorance of the wealthy while three noblemen laugh nearby. Looking bored, the Duke dismisses the entire social situation as a massive pain. The orange-haired Leblanc pouts, realizing her hard work was just an annoyance to the Duke. Clad in a vibrant red coat, the young girl prepares for a delightful day out. Leah beams as she leads the excited orange-haired girl through the bustling town square. Giggling with joy, Leblanc anticipates finally buying the items she has desperately needed. The pair wanders through the festive market, surrounded by colorful banners and cheerful crowds. Stopping at a shop window, Leblanc spots a bunny doll she remembers from her past. A bittersweet flashback shows her younger self in a previous life lovingly hugging the same toy. In the memory, the brown-haired girl expresses her deep love for the precious stuffed rabbit. Young Leblanc recalls begging her former father for the doll while standing outside the shop. Her past father coldly lectured her, claiming the money should save the starving instead. Trembling with sadness, her former self surrendered her wish and claimed she no longer wanted it. The brown-haired man praised her false compassion, unaware of the heartbreak he caused his child. In the present, Leblanc stands before the window, mourning the toy she secretly always wanted. She bitterly recalls how her sister, Mina, was gifted that exact doll years later. The memory of her father's warm, hypocritical smile toward Mina stings the young girl's heart. Shaking her head vigorously, Leblanc resolves to banish those painful memories from her current life. Leah notices her melancholy and kindly offers to buy her any toy in the shop. The orange-haired girl's blue eyes sparkle with sudden excitement at the maid's generous offer. Entering the grand toy store, Leblanc is greeted by shelves overflowing with wondrous playthings. Leah encourages her to pick anything she desires, causing the small girl to gasp in disbelief. The other maids join in, eagerly urging the adorable child to choose a special gift. Leblanc scans the room with wide eyes, searching for the perfect item to take home. Suddenly, she stops in her tracks as something unexpected catches her keen blue eyes. A bright red carnation corsage sits prominently among the toys, startling the young girl. The delicate flower rests against a decorative ribbon, symbolizing deep affection and gratitude. Leblanc envisions a humble commoner couple, reminded of the simple joys of family life. She considers buying gifts for others, weighing her options against the shiny toys on display. Row after row of charming wooden figures and blocks glisten under the shop's warm lights. Tears well up in her eyes as the orange-haired girl struggles with her conflicting emotions. With a determined shout, she realizes she cannot waste this rare opportunity on mere playthings. Leah tilts her head in confusion, pointing out that a corsage isn't exactly a toy. LeBlane thinks of the orphanage and decides this gift is far more important than any doll. The black-haired maid notes that Appreciation Day is fast approaching, making the flower quite timely. A fleeting memory of the silver-haired Duke calling such events a hassle crosses her mind. Fearful of annoying him, LeBlane worries that a gift might cause her to lose his favor. Ultimately, Leah agrees to purchase the corsage, and the little girl happily accepts the boxed gift. The scene shifts to 3 noblemen walking through the palace, their faces bright with cheer. The green-haired aide notices the red flower pinned to the purple-haired man's chest. Proudly touching his lapel, the man confirms that his daughter gave him the beautiful carnation. He gushes about the unparalleled joy of raising a child and receiving such a heartfelt gift. The noblemen agree that wealth and honor are meaningless compared to a child's genuine affection. The silver-haired Duke listens silently, his expression unreadable as he observes the boasting fathers. One aide remarks how pitiful it is for anyone to go through life without such love. An oppressive aura surrounds the Duke as the brown-haired man behind him trembles in fear. Shock and confusion wash over the 3 men as they process a startling revelation. With a stoic gaze, the silver-haired Duke admits that he has never received a carnation. The noblemen are horrified, realizing that none of the Duke's 3 sons ever gave him one. The green-haired aide's sweat drops, desperately trying to excuse the boy's lack of delicate sentiment. Duke Dublade looks absolutely insulted, declaring he has never heard such a ridiculous claim. A sudden, sharp gasp sounding, the chibi staff trembles as the Duke's confusion only deepens. Leah leads a cheerful LeBlane down the hall as the girl clutches a carnation. The staff rejoices at the sight of the flower, celebrating LeBlane's sweet and thoughtful gesture. They weep with joy, imagining the Duke finally receiving his very first floral appreciation gift. The Duke fixes LeBlane with an intense stare, making the young girl flinch in shock. The staff imagines a festive celebration, certain the carnation is intended for LeBlane's noble guardian. The stoic Duke offers a rare, gentle smile, admitting that carnations are truly a joy. Seeing the Duke's mood, the staff encourages LeBlane to present the flower immediately. LeBlane stares at her single red carnation, appearing deep in thought about her next move. To everyone's shock, LeBlane presents the flower to Leah, expressing her heartfelt gratitude instead. A sudden, low growl sounding, a dark and jealous aura begins to emanate from the Duke. The staff collapses in terror, realizing their fatal mistake in assuming who the gift was for. LeBlane and Leah share a playful moment while the Duke stands nearby in ominous fury. Overwhelmed by the gift, Leah weeps with joy and promises to treasure the flower forever. LeBlane smiles at the maid's happiness, though a strange chill suddenly runs down her spine. A sudden, heavy thud sounding, the Duke looms behind LeBlane and calls her name coldly. LeBlane whips around in terror, her face pale as she faces the Duke's intimidating presence. The Duke leans in close, asking with quiet intensity if there is truly nothing for him. Panicking, LeBlane lies that she bought nothing because she feared being an annoyance to him. LeBlane continues playing with Leah, blissfully unaware of the Duke's murderous energy behind them. By evening, a decree is issued abolishing Appreciation Day, leaving LeBlane completely baffled. Waking up in her bare ear pajamas, LeBlane stretches happily on her massive, luxurious bed. From her window, LeBlane watches Leah happily garden while wearing the red carnation with pride. The vibrant red flower stays pinned to the maid's chest, a symbol of their bond. LeBlane rolls around on the bed, feeling satisfied that her small gift brought such joy. A sudden soft tap sounding, the brown-haired aide enters the bedroom to check on LeBlane. The aide offers a warm smile, asking LeBlane if she is ready to visit the office. Remembering her duty to the Empress Dowager, LeBlane jumps up with a burst of energy. The aide chuckles at her enthusiasm, noting how lively she seems on this bright morning. A sudden rhythmic click sounding, the aide leads the tiny LeBlane down the grand hallway. The aide explains that the household is currently busy organizing gifts for the Emperor's birthday. LeBlane's mood sours as she recalls the bitter neglect she faced in her previous lives. She remembers spending her limited funds on a fountain pen, hoping for a father's love. Instead, she was branded a leech and berated for daring to live in that household. Dragged by the arm, the young girl was cruelly ordered back to her cold attic room. A sudden, sharp shove sounding, LeBlane was shoved into isolation while the others watched coldly. 2 children whisper from the shadows, mocking her for even asking for basic school supplies. They watch with detached curiosity, wondering why the father's anger focuses so heavily on LeBlane. The pair walks away, leaving LeBlane alone in the dark to reflect on her misery. LeBlane reflects on how her lack of blood relation makes her an easy target for disdain. Determined to survive, LeBlane vows to do whatever is necessary to win Duke Dublade's favor. Seeing the Duke ahead, LeBlane calls out and runs toward him with a brave face. A sudden, sharp gasp sounding, LeBlane freezes as she meets the Duke's cold, analytical gaze. LeBlain trembles with anxiety, wondering what she did to earn such a look of displeasure. The Duke observes her through his glasses, his expression unreadable, and his silence absolutely deafening. Fear grips LeBlain's heart as she realizes her plan to win him over might fail. The brown-haired aide approaches the Duke while the tiny girl hides cautiously behind his legs. Leaning down, the aide whispers that the Duke is actually angry about something else entirely. LeBlain looks up in confusion, questioning what else could possibly be bothering the intimidating man. The brown-haired aide smiles warmly, whispering that LeBlain should prepare 2 carnations next time. LeBlain panics as she realizes she spent the Duke's money without buying him a single gift. Distraught, the young girl understands that her reckless shopping spree is why the Duke is angry. Determined to fix her mistake, LeBlain resolves to find a way to make the Duke happy. LeBlain searches her memories of her past lives, hoping for information that could win him over. A vision of a mysterious stone resting inside a luxurious jewelry box captures LeBlain's full attention. Dark, swirling energy fills the air as LeBlain focuses on the valuable artifact within the mansion. LeBlain finds the box but is confused to see a simple stone inside such a lavish container. A glowing hexagram suddenly appears as the stone pulses with a surge of intense magical energy. The aide's face is inverted by the sudden flash of overwhelming power emanating from the relic. Even the stoic, silver-haired Duke is caught off guard as the room is consumed by light. Surrounded by spectral roses, LeBlain feels the ancient weight of the stone's mysterious, dark presence. A sudden, loud kung sounding, the entire mansion shakes violently, terrifying the aide and the Duke. Terror fills LeBlain's blue eyes as the hexagram's light begins rushing directly into her small body. LeBlain panics, her body moving against her will as she reaches toward the glowing magical artifact. A sudden, sharp pazak sounding, her hand closes around the stone and accidentally crushes it into powder. Stunned silence falls over the room as LeBlain and the 2 men stare at the destroyed relic. Panicking, LeBlain realizes she has just shattered an incredibly important and rare magical item. The aide recognizes the shattered object as Nuit, a legendary relic of the evil god. Realizing she just broke a forbidden artifact, LeBlain fears her new life is already over. The aide quickly makes excuses, claiming the relic crumbled because the storage conditions were simply poor. A sudden low ha sounding, the Duke sighs in frustration, calling the situation incredibly troublesome. LeBlain trembles as the Duke calls her a bother, confirming her deepest fears of rejection. Despair washes over LeBlain as she realizes she has caused trouble instead of winning favor. The Duke coldly dismisses her, ordering the young girl to return to her room immediately. A sudden, sharp huisong sounding, the emotional strain overcomes LeBlain as she collapses onto the floor. The silver-haired Duke stands tall, his imposing presence looming over the fallen and exhausted child. Blooming cherry blossoms appear as the scene shifts into the soft realm of LeBlain's painful memories. LeBlain recalls Duke Amiti, a man she once respected deeply as her merciful and righteous father. The brown-haired Duke Amiti stands proudly in his ornate uniform, a symbol of noble perfection. She remembers how he provided her with luxury, yet the atmosphere always remained cold. He performed his duties as a guardian, teaching her noble duties with clinical precision. They shared meals together, but the distance between them never once narrowed or felt warm. Despite his noble reputation, Duke Amiti never truly opened his heart to the girl he adopted. The memory shifts as a young girl's voice calls out for her father with genuine joy. A girl named Mina runs past LeBlain, eagerly calling Duke Amiti her real dad. Mina is allowed to be clingy, receiving the fatherly affection that LeBlain was always denied. LeBlain watches from the shadows, seeing the Duke offer Mina a smile he never showed her. She realizes that Mina was always the true child of destiny in the Duke's eyes. The world praised Mina as a saintly child who brought hope and rain to the people. Tears stream down LeBlain's face as she wonders if she simply didn't give enough. A cruel hand reaches out, branding her a rat for trying to hide her failures. Shadows of her past tormentors loom, telling her to die alone on the cold streets. Trapped in her nightmare, a younger LeBlain begs for mercy and promises to be better. A sudden, loud ha sounding, LeBlain bolts upright in bed, gasping from the vivid nightmare. She realizes she is safe in her room, though her body feels weak from her collapse. Worry gnaws at her heart as she considers the consequences of destroying the Nuit relic. Large tears well up in her eyes as the weight of her mistakes feels absolutely crushing. A sudden, loud kung sounding, a flash of thunder illuminates the dark, rainy night outside. LeBlain stares out at the storm, feeling as small and fragile as the stone she broke. Rain falls on the castle as the black-haired maid stares out with sorrowful eyes. In the grand hall, the maids worry that the doctor cannot identify the baby's ailment. The black-haired maid notes they gave her medicine, but she is suddenly struck by alarm. Darkness fills the nursery as the maids discover that LeBlain's bed is completely empty. Shock and terror wash over the black-haired maid upon realizing the child has disappeared. Rhythmic, heavy thudding sounds echo through the manor as the desperate search for LeBlanc begins. Bursting through the door, the brown-haired aide frantically alerts the Duke to the crisis. The silver-haired Duke and the purple-haired man react with pure shock at the news. A sudden, quick patter of footsteps sounding, the staff scours every hallway of the mansion. From the balcony, the Duke listens as the aide reports she isn't in the annex. The sweating aide suggests checking the kitchen while the Duke remains in grim silence. The silver-haired Duke considers if an assassin or kidnapper has targeted the Child of Destiny. Relief breaks the tension as the maids shout that they have finally found her. A sequence of heavy, splashing footsteps sounding, someone approaches through the dark, rainy gardens. In the pouring rain, the servants find a small, lonely figure standing in the yard. Gasped breaths sounding, the black-haired maid cries out as she reaches for the shivering girl. Trembling with cold, LeBlanc stands motionless, her small hands clasped together in the storm. The Duke looms over her, his expression unreadable, as he looks down at the child. Soaked to the bone, LeBlanc shivers uncontrollably as the cold rain pelts her small frame. Heavy, rhythmic steps sounding, the barefoot girl walks slowly across the wet stone path. Holding out a red flower, LeBlanc asks if the silver-haired man likes flowers. Tears well up in her sparkling blue eyes as she desperately begs for his forgiveness. A grayscale memory reveals the Duke's cold past rejection, ordering her to stay hidden. LeBlanc recalls her past self pleading that she never intended to cause any trouble. In the present, the black-haired maid covers her mouth, horrified by the girl's trauma. The purple-haired man closes his eyes, moved by the weight of the toddler's sorrow. The silver-haired Duke stands paralyzed, unable to find an answer to her heart-wrenching plea. Rain continues to fall on LeBlanc's bare, red feet as she waits for a response. Rubbing her hands for warmth, the pale and pitiful child looks utterly broken in the rain. Back inside, LeBlanc cowers by the bath, terrified of what the Duke intends to do. She wonders if the single carnation was not enough to earn the man's forgiveness. A sudden, soft splash sounding, a hand reaches into a basin of warm water. Startled, LeBlanc looks up with wide, glittering blue eyes as the Duke approaches her. The silver-haired Duke gently cradles her foot, asking the toddler if she is in pain. A quick, rhythmic headshake sounding, LeBlanc timidly denies any hurt while the Duke watches her. She mumbles that it only hurts a little, her cheeks flushed with bashful emotion. LeBlanc is stunned to feel the Duke's large hands moving with such surprising softness. The silver-haired Duke sternly instructs her never to wander the castle late at night again. Looking up with hope, the orange-haired girl asks if he is still angry with her. A gentle, rhythmic patting sounding, the Duke's hand rests kindly on her small head. Surrounded by roses, the Duke offers a soft smile and confirms he isn't angry. Overwhelmed with relief, LeBlanc clutches her head as her blue eyes sparkle with pure happiness. A bright sun rises over the grand castle, marking the start of a new day. Several days pass in a blur as the once icy tension begins to thaw. Peering through a doorway, LeBlanc notes that the Duke hasn't shown her any displeasure. On his desk, her red flower sits proudly in a vase, a symbol of their bond. Wearing a frilly blue dress, LeBlanc stands confidently, having secured her place in the home. She ponders the rumors of the ruthless Duke while he now peacefully shares meals. The maids beamed with pride, happy to see the young lady finally at ease. Tilting her head, LeBlanc lets out a confused sound while looking absolutely adorable. The maids invite LeBlanc to meet the merchants, promising many fascinating items to discover. A sudden, quick nod sounding, LeBlanc beams with a bright and cheerful agreement. Overwhelmed by her cuteness, the three maids clutch their cheeks in absolute adoration. LeBlanc raises her hands happily, surrounded by a whimsical field of green clovers. Entering the massive library, LeBlanc stares up at the endless rows of ancient books. A sudden, cheerful shout sounding, the pink-haired maid welcomes her with open arms. The maids offer dubious educational books, ranging from fraud tactics to physical combat. Dismissing the others, the pink-haired maid insists her book on loan sharking is superior. A chaotic, loud scuffle sounding, the maids argue while LeBlanc watches in bewildered silence. Exhausted by the chaos, LeBlanc decides to pick a nice-looking book for herself. Her curiosity is piqued by a mysterious, old book that lacks a title. The plain brown book sits prominently, radiating an aura of ancient, forgotten secrets. LeBlanc reads about the founding emperor's victory over a servant of the evil god. The text details the first requirement for awakening power: contact with a divine relic. The second condition is revealed as acquiring a medium to exercise the god's power. Absorbed in the lore, LeBlanc's sparkling blue eyes reflect the weight of the information. She questions why her survival must involve a connection to a malevolent deity. A grand vision shows the Nereid god sealing the root of all evil away. Over centuries, the seal weakened, threatening to unleash the ancient darkness once more. LeBlanc realizes her previous life was a sacrifice intended to maintain that very ritual. She recalls the agony of the ritual, remembering how she begged for a quick end. Startled by the pink-haired maid, LeBlanc quickly hides her deep, somber thoughts. Playing the part of a child, she claims a scary lion in the book frightened her. A sudden, high-pitched squeal sounding, the maids coo over the girl's adorable display of fear. From the doorway, the black-haired maid watches the group with a warm, gentle smile. Approaching with kindness, the black-haired maid addresses the young girl with soft affection. LeBlonde offers a bright, convincing grin, masking her tactical mind with toddler innocence. A vibrant arrangement of roses blooms, signaling a shift in the manor's atmosphere. With a joyful shout, LeBlane agrees to go and see the newly arrived merchants. In the grand hall, the silver-haired duke sits on his throne beneath a majestic tapestry. LeBlane identifies the hanging as the founding emperor's tapestry, written in a lost language. She recalls the duke's brutal conquest of the frozen lands to secure this legendary artifact. The imperial palace coveted the item, but none could pry it from the duke's grip. Behind the throne, the tapestry stands as a terrifying symbol of Dublade's military supremacy. LeBlanc notes how other nobles tried to mimic the duke's prestige with their own tapestries. The trend of displaying wealth through wall hangings spread quickly throughout the empire's nobility. A sudden, rhythmic steps sounding, a visitor marches toward the throne to offer his respects. Trader Turba enters, a man LeBlane recognizes as a notorious and dangerous con artist. Realizing his identity, LeBlane is paralyzed by shock at seeing the infamous swindler here. With a practiced bow, Turba begins his elaborate performance before the silver-haired duke. The aide mentions needing a replacement item, playing right into the trader's deceptive hands. LeBlane recalls that Turba once scammed the imperial family with clever, forged paintings. She realizes with mounting dread that the swindler is now targeting the Duke of Dublade. An ornate case opens to reveal a stone tablet covered in mysterious ancient script. Turba presents the artifact as a holy oracle tablet from a forgotten ancient era. Staff members discuss the tablet, preferring a righteous relic over anything tied to evil. The aide suggests the tablet would be an ideal gift for an upcoming celebration. The Duke listens coldly as Turba claims the stone radiates an undeniable divine power. Turba spins a heroic tale of surviving monster attacks to retrieve the precious tablet. Raising his hands dramatically, the conman theatrically declares his inability to abandon the relic. The silver-haired Duke watches with a cold, calculating gaze as the merchant presents his wares. Trader Turba raises a finger with a greedy smirk, demanding a staggering 100 million. The purple-haired aide reacts with visible distress at the exorbitant price, while LeBlane watches quietly. A sudden, sharp sniff sounding, the silver-haired servant worries that the sum is too high to justify. LeBlane's eyes widen in surprise as the aide mentions the item is meant to replace Nui. Turba looks on with smug satisfaction while the Duke's men exchange concerned, doubting glances. Raising her hands with a joyful cheer, LeBlane expertly maintains her facade of toddler innocence. Turba greets the girl as the child of fate, inviting her to examine the ancient artifact. A sudden, quick patter of footsteps sounding, LeBlane rushes forward while the aide fears for the item. Squatting beside the case, the orange-haired girl offers a bright, cheerful smile to the gathered men. Turba grandly suggests that the child of fate might even be able to read ancient languages. The aide scoffs at the idea while Turba quickly dismisses his own suggestion as a joke. Pure shock washes over the staff as LeBlane begins to speak, leaving everyone completely speechless. Cold sweat pours down Turba's face as he gasps in disbelief at the toddler's sudden claim. Pointing a determined finger, LeBlane boldly accuses the notorious merchant of being a complete fraud. Glowing with mysterious light, the stone tablet reveals its secrets to LeBlane's intense blue eyes. The green-haired man leans in with frantic curiosity, asking how she could possibly read the stone. A record of the lost tongue shows how few characters have ever been successfully deciphered. Divine light surrounds a long-haired maiden who once possessed the rare gift of ancient interpretation. The text foretells that a living interpretation of the ancient language will eventually emerge again. Floating through the air, the complex scripts represent a challenge that has baffled scholars for centuries. LeBlane recalls that only 3 people in history will truly master this forgotten divine language. Surrounded by roses, the silhouette of Adrian Luerg looms as a future master of the script. Deep blue roses frame the image of Johann Dublade, the Duke's eldest son and linguistic genius. Standing confidently amidst blooming flowers, LeBlane reflects on the weight of her hidden future knowledge. LeBlanc notes that the merchant's claim about the excavation site was a lie from the start. A map reveals that Calissus is located in the opposite direction of the merchant's claimed site. The staff members react with horror upon hearing that the holy tablet is actually a gravestone. A sudden, rhythmic nod sounding, LeBlane confirms the truth while the aide remains in total denial. The brown-haired man stares at her with a look of utter disbelief, questioning her impossible claim. Clasping her hands together, LeBlane uses her childish lisp to insist she can read the text. The purple-haired aide grabs her shoulders, desperately asking how she could have studied such things. Surrounded by yellow blossoms, the orange-haired girl plays the part of a simple, innocent 4-year-old. A soft, collective chuckle sounding. The men relax and conclude that a child couldn't possibly lie. A devious smirk crosses LeBlane's face as she remembers how Mina used this exact same tactic. In a memory, the long-haired Mina explains that the ancient meanings simply reveal themselves to her. Monks bow in reverence to Mina, hailing her as a girl born with the god's power. Returning to the present, LeBlane hides her cunning thoughts behind a sweet, tiny "eh-hey" sound. Trembling with desperate rage, Turba points a shaking finger and screams that the girl is lying. Turba threatens to have the temple verify the stone, while LeBlane considers her next tactical move. LeBlane narrows her eyes with fierce determination, silently accusing the man of fabricating his evidence. The mansion's staff members look on with growing suspicion, their trust in the merchant rapidly fading. Turba stands in the grand hall, his performance crumbling under the weight of the toddler's accusations. LeBlane reflects on the unfairness of being a child of fate who is constantly met with suspicion. A small, satisfied smile touches her lips as she prepares to deliver the final killing blow. Looking up at the grand tapestry, LeBlane recites a blessing written in the Emperor's true language. Pointing upward with absolute authority, LeBlane commands the room's attention with her sudden, divine display. The silver-haired Duke and the aide are struck by shock at the mention of the Emperor's name. The brown-haired man watches with intense focus as the mystery of the middle name unfolds. A dark, winged figure appears before a red backdrop, representing the ancient and mysterious Seaman tribe. A narration box explains that the founding emperor's true tribe is now a strictly forbidden taboo. Behind a veil of sharp thorns, the golden-haired emperor's cursed lineage remains a dangerous imperial secret. The imperial family systematically destroyed all evidence of his origin, burning every record containing his middle name. Offering a bright, innocent smile, LeBlane claims her knowledge of this hidden name is undeniable proof. The purple-haired aide, sweating with nervous realization, admits they have no choice but to believe her. The staff members exchange looks of awe before the aide realizes they were nearly scammed by Turba. Terrified and desperate, Turba invokes the names of the gods to protect his crumbling reputation. The silver-haired Duke laughs mockingly at the merchant's hypocrisy, while a small purple-haired maid watches silently. Pure, paralyzing fear washes over Turba as the weight of his failed deception finally sinks in. LeBlanc watches the trembling man with cold calculation, silently urging him to run for his life. Gripping his sword with a sudden metallic click sounding, the Duke decides his recent leniency has ended. With a gaze colder than ice, the Duke orders his men to drag the fraudulent merchant away. Walking away with regal indifference, the Duke commands the guards to escort the chosen to the dungeon. The Duke ruthlessly suggests cutting the man open to see if any divine power actually exists inside. The brown-haired soldier acknowledges the brutal order with a dark, unwavering focus in his eyes. Turba reaches out a trembling hand, screaming in a final, futile attempt to beg for mercy. Collapsing in utter despair, the disgraced merchant grovels as the shadow of the guards looms over him. From the quiet garden outside, the Duke and his aide discuss the merchant's reckless attempt at fraud. Peering over the desk, LeBlane wonders what kind of powerful relic could drive a man to such risk. The mysterious document reveals an intricate diagram of the étoile, a relic of legendary significance. A vision of the long-haired Mina appears, showing her wielding the immense power of a similar artifact. LeBlanc notes that this document describes a gold relic, unlike the platinum one Mina previously used. Shocked by the revelation, the young girl realizes this is a second, previously unknown étoile. The silver-haired Duke and his brown-haired aide contemplate the sudden appearance of another sacred symbol. Pointing to the ancient map, the aide discusses the strategic value of the relic's secret location. The brown-haired man reveals that the artifact currently rests deep within the treacherous bottom of the sea. Laughing nervously, the aide explains that the relic sits just 10 meters inside foreign territorial waters. The Duke realizes that the imperial faith cannot retrieve it without sparking a massive international war. LeBlane deduces that Turba's plan involved selling the holy relic to a wealthy foreign king. The Duke is determined to secure the relic himself, leading the aide to question his diplomatic strategy. With a sudden, sharp thud sounding, the Duke dismisses the idea of tedious diplomatic negotiations. Surrounded by vibrant purple flowers, the Duke calmly declares his intention to simply wage war instead. The brown-haired man offers a compliant smile, agreeing to begin military preparations for the relic immediately. Horrified by the Duke's casual brutality, LeBlane resolves never to provoke his dangerous temper again. Returning to her innocent facade, the girl watches the powerful men plan their next violent move. The brown-haired man beams with gratitude, thanking the little girl for uncovering the merchant's deception. Blinking in adorable confusion, LeBlane lets out a soft, questioning sound as she processes the praise. With wide, sparkling blue eyes, the toddler asks for confirmation of her helpfulness in a small voice. The Duke leans forward with a rare, softened gaze, agreeing to indulge the child's simple request. Leblanc reaches her tiny arms upward, using her childish lisp to ask the Duke to hold her. The silver-haired Duke is momentarily stunned by the girl's sudden affection. Gazing into his eyes, Leblanc promises to be a good girl if he accepts her. Hiding her face in her hands, she claims she can grow up independently without being a burden. Silence fills the room as the Duke and his aide watch the girl's heart-wrenching show of humility. Surrounded by a halo of blossoms, Leblanc makes her most daring move, asking the Duke to be her papa. A sudden, gentle lift sounding, the powerful Duke reaches down and scoops the small girl into his arms. Held securely against his chest, Leblanc looks up at the Duke with a mixture of hope and calculation. The Duke looks down at the child with a gaze that has finally begun to thaw. Snuggling close to his shoulder, Leblanc feels a sense of victory, knowing she is finally accepted. A warm, genuine smile lighting her face, Leblanc realizes she is no longer just an annoying child to him. Leblanc sits on a pink rug in a grand room while a hand reaches toward her. A sudden, rhythmic dung sounding. A close-up shows a pink sock being pulled onto a foot. Standing tall with pride, Leblanc exclaims that she successfully put her socks on by herself. The black-haired maid embraces Leblanc with joy, celebrating the small child's impressive growth and achievement. Clapping their hands, the other maids cheer for the little girl, hailing her as a true prodigy. With a sudden, determined thud sounding, Leblanc announces her firm desire to go see the Duke. The mansion staff members react with shock and anticipation, wondering if the big moment is finally happening. Beaming with encouragement, the black-haired maid tells Leblanc to show the master what she can do. In his sun-drenched office, the silver-haired Duke focuses intently on his paperwork at a grand desk. A bright, joyful jajan sounding, Leblanc presents her bare feet to the Duke with a triumphant pose. Leaning his head on his hand, the silver-haired Duke watches the child with a faint, amused smile. Leblanc considers her strategic position, hoping to seal the adoption deal by playing her cards right. Sitting back on the rug, the girl resolves to prove she isn't just a helpless child. A sudden gin sounding, the toddler holds up a single sock, ready to start the demonstration. The three maids cheer from the doorway, urging the little miss to show him what she's got. Following her three-step plan, the toddler struggles mightily to pull the sock over her tiny heel. The purple straining with all her might, Leblanc tries the difficult task again as the sock resists her efforts. Frustrated and tearful, the toddler cries out for another attempt while struggling with the simple clothing. Watching from behind, the brown-haired man looks on with a sweat drop, confused by the spectacle. The purple-haired aide and his companion giggle and laugh, finding the child's failed attempt incredibly cute. Surrounded by rain clouds, Leblanc feels utterly pathetic after failing to repeat her earlier success. The maids desperately insist they saw her succeed, trying to soothe the heartbroken little girl's pride. Looking serious amidst yellow blossoms, the Duke declares he cannot tolerate lack of improvement in his castle. Narration reveals that the Duke's younger sons are already enrolled in a prestigious academy for prodigies. The eldest son's silhouette represents his distant life at a foreign boarding school, far from home. Before leaving for inspection, the silver-haired Duke tells Leblanc to practice while he is away. The black-haired maid offers a soft, supportive smile as she watches the Duke and Leblanc interact. Feeling envious of the child's favor, the purple-haired aide makes a playful, jealous face to his companion. The brown-haired man asks Leblanc if she truly loves the Duke as she nods her head vigorously. A narration box explains that the silver-haired Duke left the next day to inspect his territory. Walking down the hallway, Leblanc counts the 20 days until the Duke returns to the castle. The little girl looks around cautiously, searching for a quiet place to practice putting on socks alone. Overhearing a shocking conversation, the toddler freezes with wide eyes as she senses something is wrong. A soldier informs the red-haired woman that priests have come to take the little miss away. The red-haired woman looks pained as the soldier mentions the Pope is Leblanc's legal guardian. With her eyes closed, the red-haired woman admits a guardian doesn't need permission to reclaim their child. Paralyzed by fear, Leblanc realizes with horror that she is about to be taken away again. In a frantic vision, Leblanc realizes the order's arrival means she will be sent to Duke Valois. Overcome with dread, the tearful girl realizes she is being sent to her cruel former tormentor. The grand lion crest of House Dublade represents a family with a remarkably short but prosperous history. Adorned in jewels and gold, the Duke represents the immense success and wealth of his lineage. A glowing golden key represents the unique and harsh educational methods used to train the family. Crowned with thorns and holding a sword, the Duke represents a family raised to be slaughterers. An intricate spiked sigil glows with light, symbolizing the brutal destiny of the Dublade bloodline. Narration proclaims Theodore Dublade as the most perfect head the family has ever produced. Surrounded by blue magic, the Duke is praised for his overwhelming power and perfectly balanced physique. A shower of gold coins illustrates the Duke's keen business sense that doubled his family's wealth. A close-up of a sharp blue eye emphasizes the Duke's ruthless ability to exclude all emotion. The scene shifts to the Grand Regional Inspection Office building, beautifully framed by blooming white roses. Nervous soldiers struggle to swallow their meal under the oppressive, silent atmosphere of the mansion. The senior guards maintain a serious focus, while a brown-haired woman trembles in fear below. Visibly sweating, the brown-haired woman grows increasingly anxious as she tries to hide a secret. An ominous presence fills the hallway as someone detects the faint, lingering trace of forbidden magic. The brown-haired guard sternly explains that unauthorized magic tools are prohibited despite the woman's frantic pleas. Refusing to believe her story, the man demands to know why fabric shopping requires communication magic. Forcing her hand open, the guard seizes the illegal device as the woman cries out in protest. A sudden, blinding flash sounding, the small cube glows with intense power in the guard's grip. Encouraged by her maid, Dublade practices her pronunciation in hopes of finally impressing the powerful Duke. With a look of pure determination, the little girl carefully sounds out her new papa's title. Worrying about the Duke's approval, the toddler fretfully wonders if her childish lisp will cause trouble. The mansion staff erupts into cheerful laughter, finding the girl's earnest practice and cute mispronunciation delightful. Beaming with pride, the brown-haired man explains he received the magic tool as an honest payment. Watching the warm interaction from the doorway, the black-haired aide offers a gentle, approving smile. Observing the child from afar, the silver-haired Duke finds her strange behavior and popularity unexpectedly intriguing. While the aide finds the girl cute, the Duke's chilling glare leaves the nearby guards paralyzed. Feeling like they are being hunted by a predator, the aides eat in terrified, silent discomfort. The silver-haired Duke contemplates his own cold nature, unable to grasp the concept of cuteness. Shrouded in blossoms, Dublade stands in her finest pink dress, ready to approach the Duke again. Turning around with a radiant, joyful face, the little girl calls out her new nickname for him. A close-up reveals the sheer intensity and hope in the toddler's wide-eyed, sparkling gaze. Looking up at the Duke, the child's innocent appearance hides her deep-seated fear of possible rejection. Noticing the Duke's darkening expression, the onlookers panic, fearing the child has finally displeased him. The guards experience a physical reaction to the Duke's mounting pressure, their hearts racing in terror. Desperately trying to save the situation, the soldier sweatily pivots the conversation toward territorial security. With a sharp, piercing gaze, the silver-haired Duke demands immediate details about the recent border disturbances. Relieved by the shift in focus, the soldier reports that bandits are currently terrorizing the borderlands. The man adds a grave detail, mentioning that several children have recently been abducted by criminals. A sudden, frantic wah sounding, the Duke envisions the child's suffering at the hands of cruel captors. Falling into a heavy silence, the Duke thoughtfully considers his next military move against the border threats. With icy resolve, the Duke declares that no lawlessness will be tolerated anywhere near his domain. The loyal guards stand ready, asking exactly how thoroughly they should purge the surrounding criminal element. The silver-haired Duke orders a total sweep of the entire border region, his eyes narrowed with intent. Acting like a proper young lady, Dublade politely bids the Duke farewell before heading out. A sudden, high-pitched kia sounding, a comedic vision shows the girl being whisked away by a ruffian. The Duke decides to expand his influence by protecting neighboring territories from the increasing bandit threat. Dressed in equestrian gear, Dublade cheerfully announces her plan to spend the day horseback riding. Surrounded by vibrant roses, the toddler is filled with a sense of immense pride and accomplishment. A sudden, high-pitched kia sounding, another playful imagination bubble shows Dublade being abducted by a persistent thief. Surprised by his own growing concern, the silver-haired Duke begins to reconsider his current safety measures. Clad in a sun hat and summer dress, Dublade excitedly tells the Duke she's going swimming now. The Duke ruthlessly orders the extermination of all bandits within hundreds of kilometers, shocking his loyal aides. Sunlight streams through the garden window as a sudden, soft rustling sounding comes from the corner. A rhythmic kicking sounding, a pair of tiny legs move frantically from under the furniture. Leah lifts the toddler into her arms while Dublade urgently searches for her missing elephant bag. Soft pink and white petals drift through the air, framing the gentle, domestic scene between them. Smiling warmly, Leah reveals she found the elephant-shaped bag and asks why it's so important. Turning away with a bashful blush, Dublade tries to hide her mysterious intentions from the maid. A sudden, excited wee sounding, the little girl scurries away while Leah calls after her in confusion. A rhythmic patter sounding, the toddler's small feet carry her quickly across the flower-patterned carpet. Straining with effort, the brown-haired toddler grips her bag strap with a firm grip sounding. Dressed in her finest pink dress, Dublade looks forward with unwavering determination in her blue eyes. Realizing the grave danger she is in, the little girl decides she must run away immediately. A rhythmic pitter-patter sounding, Dublade scurries through the hallway, fearing the Empress Dowager will betray her. The toddler realizes that without the Duke, the order will certainly send her back to Valois. Against a dark background, Leblanc resolves to escape while being transported to the capital. A sudden, rhythmic clatter sounding, the child enters the kitchen area where a gray-haired maid works. When the maid asks what she needs, Leblanc politely requests some water for her journey. Surrounded by roses, the child cheers with joy as she begins gathering her survival supplies. A rushing splash sounding, the cheerful maid fills the girl's bag while the mansion staff looks on. A quick spin sounding, Leblanc turns back with her bag to ask for even more supplies. A firm press sounding, Leblanc is pleased that her water supply is finally secured for her escape. A mischievous giggle sounding, the toddler smugly recalls how she already managed to sneak away snacks. A literal light bulb goes off as Leblanc realizes she has more crucial items to gather. Entering the larder, the child declares that sweets are an essential energy source for her mission. A sudden gulp sounding, the girl frantically stuffs candies into her bag, complaining about the small amount. A quick whip sounding, the toddler mentally checks off packing a map, clothes, and her shoes. A close-up of her sparkling blue eyes captures the intense focus of a child planning a getaway. A quiet tiptoe sounding, Leblanc sneaks behind the red curtains to find the most important thing. Her eyes light up with greed as she finds a heavy bag filled with shining gold coins. A soft nuzzle sounding, the child cuddles the coins she hid from the castle's retainers. The black-haired maid, Leah, suddenly appears behind the girl, catching her in the middle of her heist. A sharp gasp sounding, the startled girl shouts that she is only packing her bag for the move. Hugging the child tightly, Leah promises she will grow up surrounded by love in her new home. A gentle pat sounding, Leah tries to comfort the tearful girl, who feels a pang of guilt. Throwing a tantrum in her mind, Leblanc declares she would rather fall into a cesspool than go. Looking at Leah, Leblanc sadly concludes she cannot involve a mere servant in her dangerous escape. Leah leads the sad toddler away for snacks, oblivious to the heavy bag the child is carrying. A cheerful narration box announces that the group will spend the day reading a fairy tale together. The maids greet Leblanc with puppets and books, hoping to give her one last happy memory. The pink-haired and blonde maids struggle through tears to entertain the child with their puppet show. A loud wail sounding, the three maids burst into tears together, unable to bear the coming separation. While the maids cry, they notice the child has been strangely attached to her bag recently. Memories of delicious treats and fun horsey rides remind Leblanc of the warmth she found here. A soft sob sounding, the child realizes this castle was heaven compared to her harsh past lives. The maids frantically ask why she is crying, promising to scold whoever caused her such pain. Leah looks on with profound sadness, clutching a magic tool and dreading the girl's permanent departure. A heartbreaking wail sounding, Leblanc admits she misses the silver-haired Duke more than she ever expected. A bright sparkle sounding, the maids weep while Leah holds the magic tool, lamenting that nothing changed. A lace-patterned box grimly announces that the day of the Order's arrival has finally come. Under an oppressive, dark sky, a blonde soldier leads the bag-clad girl toward her fate. The blonde soldier protests the sudden arrival, but the blue-haired priest claims it's the Pope's order. The maids desperately pack blankets and food, worried the child will be cold during her journey. A sinister grin sounding, the blue-haired priest greets the terrified toddler with a mocking, cold question. A sudden flinch sounding, Leblanc trembles as the priest mentions her lack of ties and family. With a chilling expression, the priest tells the girl she no longer has to worry about anything. The priest promises Duke Valois will be a loving father, leaving the child in total despair. Leblanc bitterly remembers how Duke Valois actually raised her with the rod, not with love. A dark vision reveals the Order and Valois shaking hands while the child remains their prisoner. A constant tremble sounding, Leblanc looks down at the shards of her broken life, fearing her return. A dark, oppressive force grips the girl's small hand as she desperately refuses to leave. The blue-haired priest forcefully drags the crying child away while her caretakers watch in helpless shock. Looming over her, the blue-haired priest cruelly threatens the terrified girl with divine punishment for her resistance. The priest's cold lecture about gratitude and physical punishment triggers painful memories of her past suffering. Traumatic memories flood back, leaving the brown-haired child trembling and struggling to catch her breath. A sudden, sharp gasp sounding, the priest is startled by an unexpected interruption during his cruel handling. A powerful hand gently touches Leblanc's face as a cold voice commands the priest to let go. The priest freezes in terror as the silver-haired Duke's overwhelming, murderous aura fills the entire room. With icy blue eyes burning with rage, the Duke repeats his demand to release his daughter. When the priest mentions the previous agreement, the Duke dismisses him with a chilling final ultimatum. A sharp metallic ring sounding, the Duke's guards draw their swords to enforce their master's absolute authority. The silver-haired Duke stares down the priest as a cold blade is pressed against the man's throat. An oppressive silence falls as the Duke ruthlessly silences the priest's attempts to justify his actions. A soft, tearful sob sounding, the little girl looks up at the Duke with wide, hopeful eyes. A sudden, sharp realization sounding, the Duke's piercing gaze focuses entirely on the child's trembling form. The Duke's expression darkens as he notices the painful red bruise left on the girl's tiny arm. A sudden, violent thud sounding, the Duke strikes the priest and declares that Leblaine now belongs to Dublade. The child's tiny hand grips the Duke's expensive robes with a sense of desperate final hope. A sudden, lifting hup sounding, the silver-haired Duke gathers the small girl into his protective embrace. Surrounded by blooming flowers, the Duke challenges the order to try and take the girl from him. A gentle, soothing touch sounding, Leblaine feels a wave of relief as her tears are finally wiped away. The brown-haired toddler is stunned by the Duke's sudden, uncharacteristic display of gentleness toward her. Amidst soft pink blossoms, the Duke's voice suggests the child clean herself to regain her proper appearance. A soft, rhythmic nuzzle sounding, the girl buries her face in the Duke's chest, feeling truly safe. The priest trembles in fear while the Duke stands firm, shielding the girl from any further harm. With the situation settled, the brown-haired aide politely but firmly orders the priest group to depart immediately. A sudden, panicked gasp sounding, the priest stares in disbelief at the sudden loss of his prisoner. A sudden, forceful bang sounding, a comedic vision shows the priest being unceremoniously booted from the premises. As the sun sets over the grand mansion, the heavy atmosphere of the confrontation finally begins to lift. Beaming with joy, the brown-haired aide warmly welcomes the child back into the castle's loving care. A sudden, clinging thud sounding, Leblaine chooses to stay firmly in the Duke's arms instead of leaving. Trembling with emotion, the girl realizes that only the Duke's arms offer her true safety and protection. A deep-seated fear of the outside world reinforces her desire to remain within the Duke's domain. The maids and aides are utterly stunned by Leblaine's intense and unusual attachment to the cold Duke. When the Duke grants a rare concession, the household staff reacts with total, open-mouthed astonishment at his kindness. A sudden, anxious flinch sounding, the girl wonders how to handle her growing feelings of gratitude and fear. The Duke's arrogant assumption about the child's affection leaves his loyal staff in a state of silent disbelief. Surrounded by radiant roses, the silver-haired Duke looks surprisingly pleased with his new self-proclaimed title of father. A sudden, squeaky hinge sounding, the servants quickly agree with the Duke's assessment to avoid his icy wrath. A soft, emotional sigh sounding, the child processes the incredible news that she has finally been claimed. The memory of the Duke's fierce declaration of fatherhood echoes, providing the girl with a newfound sense of belonging. Clinging to his sleeve with a rhythmic tremble sounding, the small girl asks if she can truly stay. With wide, sparkling eyes, the toddler heartbreakingly promises to be perfect if only she is allowed to remain. A sudden, glistening teardrop sounding, the child's intense vulnerability is captured in her shimmering, hopeful gaze. A sudden, radiant smile sounding, the silver-haired Duke's rare expression of warmth leaves Leblaine completely breathless with joy. A steady, rhythmic crackle sounding, the warmth of the fireplace mirrors the changing atmosphere within the castle walls. A gentle, comforting pat sounding, the child wonders why the Duke is suddenly acting with such uncharacteristic tenderness. A rhythmic, soothing stroke sounding, the Duke tenderly comforts the sleeping girl amidst a flurry of soft petals. Beaming with excitement, the toddler asks Leah to help her write down her official adoption announcement immediately. Celebratory fireworks explode as Leblaine and the maids cheer wildly for her long-awaited and official adoption success. Glee shines in her blue eyes as the brown-haired girl admires the Duke's powerful influence. Thinking about the Duke's successful bribes, Leblaine giggles with a mischievous, wide-eyed expression. Surrounded by yellow blossoms, the child plans to remain hidden while honing her adult intellect. Kicking her feet in the grass, the girl resolves to act perfectly mature to ensure her eventual freedom. As the blonde maid mentions the young masters, Leblaine hums while planning her travel fend. A sudden, sharp realization sounding, the brown-haired girl notices a loose button on the maid's sleeve. Beaming brightly, Leblaine points out the dangling button and offers to take it off her hands. The maids are charmed by her request, though the black-haired Leah worries about the child's safety. A soft, disappointed sigh sounding, Leblaine laments the loss of her potential travel money button. A rhythmic, sharp ticking sounding, the blonde maid works with intense focus to please the child. A soft, elegant shimmer sounding, the blonde maid reveals her masterwork with a proud, closed-eyed expression. Overwhelmed with joy, Leblaine cheers as the maid presents the button transformed into a glittering jewel. Peering through the window, the pink-haired maid spots the arrival of Duke Tamore and the Senate. Leblain peeks over the ledge with curiosity, her blue eyes wide at the mention of Tamore. A cold, stern expression defines the gray-haired Duke Tamore as he enters the castle grounds. A sudden, sharp gasp sounding, the child recognizes the man, her face paling with instant dread. The maids quickly draw the red curtains, determined to hide the girl from the Senate's cruelty. Leah gently invites the girl to eat, noticing the child's confusion about the unusual dining location. A vision shows the silver-haired Duke eating a solitary quick meal in his busy office. Pondering the news, the brown-haired toddler wonders why the Duke never shares a meal with others. A heavy sense of mystery lingers as Leblain struggles to remember her past encounter with Tamore. A sudden, sharp creak sounding, the ornate doors open to reveal a room filled with flowers. Music notes fill the air as Leblain is formally presented in the grand, flower-decked dining hall. With a bright, hopeful expression, the toddler offers a cheerful greeting to the gathered family members. Her joyful expression falters into a confused blink as she realizes who is sitting at the table. A blue-haired man watches the child with a contemplative, resting pose as she enters the room. Two silver-haired boys stare at Leblain from the dining table, their expressions unreadable and cold. The silver-haired Duke looks up from his seat, formally calling the child to join him. A sudden, quick pitter-patter sounding, Leblain runs toward the Duke, her pink dress fluttering behind her. A soft, rhythmic lifting sounding, the toddler is hoisted into a chair to face her new brothers. The narration introduces the silver-haired young masters as the second son, Henry, and third son, Ishak. A dramatic realization strikes the household as they see the miniature versions of the cold Duke. Surrounded by vibrant sunflowers, Leblain is officially introduced to the two high-ranking young lords. Henry offers a gentle, eye-closing smile while flowers bloom around his deceptively kind and welcoming greeting. In stark contrast, Ishak remains silent and intense, his sharp blue eyes fixed firmly on Leblain. A soft, thoughtful hum sounding, Leblain recalls her past life where she matured far too slowly. Historical text reveals Henry's future as a financial genius who dominates the empire's economy with talent. A vision of the adult Henry reveals a cunning man, often criticized for his manipulative business tactics. Leblain stares blankly, processing the terrifying reputations of the two boys sitting right before her. The narration describes Ishak as a legendary martial artist, though his enemies saw him as a thug. A vision shows the silver-haired brothers standing protectively beside a brown-haired woman named Mina. Dark memories suggest that the brothers would have ruthlessly destroyed Leblain in her previous life. Shivering in the cold, the hooded child remembers hiding in fear from the Dublade family's passing carriage. A sudden, quick shaking sounding, Leblain vows to maintain a harmless, cute facade to survive. A sudden, tight clench sounding, the girl resolves to never act irritating toward her dangerous brothers. Putting on her best smile, Leblain greets the young masters again, hoping to leave a good impression. Henry's eyes remain closed in a polite smile while Ishak's gaze grows increasingly sharp and focused. An oppressive, dark aura surrounds Ishak as he looms over the terrified toddler with glowing eyes. While Henry remains cold and distant, Ishak leans in closer to interrogate the trembling, brown-haired child. With a terrifying, intense glare, Ishak aggressively asks the girl if she knows how to eat carrots. Surrounded by carrots and bunnies, Leblain tentatively confirms Ishak's bizarre and aggressive interrogation. Ishak shouts an absurd question while Henry watches his brother's outburst with visible irritation. Henry remains focused on his writing as Leblain ponders Ishak's earlier insulting comment. The brown-haired toddler is visibly stunned by the complex equations and theories Henry is drafting. Henry questions her presence as the small girl asks to see his parchment and Mac. Ishak accuses his brother of siphoning money while Henry explains his sophisticated financial strategy. Leblain stares blankly, completely overwhelmed by the boys' mature and high-level political conversation. Henry discusses foreign affairs while Ishak excitedly proposes an investment in iron for the family. Henry dismisses Ishak's plan as amateurish while the child watches their intense intellectual debate. Ishak argues his point heatedly while Henry looks on with calm and superior indifference. Henry explains why gold is superior to iron during wartime to a skeptical, listening Ishak. Leblain feels lost in a strange world full of terrifyingly genius and mature children. Ishak suddenly points at the girl with a loud shout, startling her completely. With a dark aura, Ishak threatens Leblain with death for potentially judging his intelligence. Terrified by the sudden hostility, the small girl raises her hands in absolute shock. Ishak seeks confirmation for his aggressive stance with a sharp and confident blue-eyed grin. Ishak boasts about his own strength while warning the girl against acting cocky or entitled. Henry watches his brother's arrogant and childish display with a look of silent, utter disbelief. Henry's expression turns chilling as he describes the merciless and bloodthirsty legacy of Dublade. Laughing darkly, Henry issues a cryptic warning that leaves Leblain feeling deeply uneasy and confused. Maintaining her adorable facade, the girl beams with a radiant and incredibly joyful smile. Both brothers are momentarily silenced and taken aback by her sudden, sunny, and bright disposition. A heavy, awkward silence fills the room as both children process the recent threats. Ishak suddenly erupts into boisterous laughter, finding the girl's reaction or the situation hilarious. Henry remains deeply skeptical, his sharp blue eyes narrowing as he analyzes the toddler's behavior. Standing amidst white roses, Dublade wonders what kind of person the silver-haired boy truly is. As she is led away, the child leaves the two brothers behind to their thoughts. Henry watches her depart with intense focus, questioning if her innocence is genuine or manufactured. Henry reflects on the nature of children, claiming that youth does not equal true innocence. Suspecting hidden motives, Henry compares the girl to the manipulative children at the Gifted Academy. The silver-haired boy remains deep in thought, his gaze fixed on the empty doorway. Henry recalls a man's frantic complaints about the child of destiny putting on a performance. The memory shows the man shouting about how the girl has already manipulated the Duke. Henry resolves to watch her closely while Ishak aggressively vents his frustration on the wall. Henry catches his brother in a fit of aggression, his expression full of silent concern. Ishak turns away sharply, vehemently denying to Henry that he has been charmed by her. Despite his blushing face, Ishak insists to his brother that the girl isn't cute. A close-up reveals Dublade's shimmering blue eye framed by a garden of soft pink flowers. In a playful vision, bunny-eared Dublade tries to capture attention with a cute, pleading request. Surrounded by blooming roses, a thought bubble expresses the boy's struggle to maintain his resolve. With intense focus, Ishak vows not to succumb to her act like the household adults. The two stand in the grand hall, the tension palpable between the boy and the toddler. Ishak looks down at the girl with crossed arms, questioning her strange and silent movements. Sensing the heavy atmosphere, Dublade realizes she must act to break the awkward silence. The brown-haired girl offers a small pouch to Ishak with a charming and childish plea. Ishak issues a stern warning, telling the girl never to covet a position not her own. Henry watches her walking away, wondering what the strange child could possibly be planning. Henry realizes his aggressive brother is about to make a massive mistake with the girl. Henry concludes that Ishak will certainly lose the moment he tries to threaten her with weapons. A sudden, sharp swipe sounding, the toddler vows to perform a terrifying act of survival. A sudden, loud crunch sounding, Ishak intimidates the hungry child by eating bread alone. Henry watches the scene with cold disdain, questioning the intelligence of his family members. Pouting, Dublade internally criticizes the silver-haired boy for his selfish and vicious snacking habits. A sudden, sharp tug sounding, the girl imagines losing her temper and grabbing his hair. A rhythmic pitter-patter sounding, Dublade fears being exiled for her potential violent outburst. Shaking her head frantically, the toddler resolves to maintain her harmless and polite facade. Ishak's expression softens into a polite, closed-eyed smile while addressing the brown-haired girl. A soft, rhythmic pat sounding, Ishak praises Dublade for being such a good girl. With shimmering eyes, the girl stares longingly at the bread, her hunger clearly showing. Surprised by her intense focus, Ishak stops as Dublade points toward the loaf of bread. Flushing slightly, the silver-haired boy reluctantly offers a piece of his snack to her. A sudden, quick chomp sounding, Dublade takes a large bite of the offered bread. Surrounded by flowers, the girl rejoices in the sugary, delicious flavor of the master's gift. Sitting together on the floor, the silver-haired boy observes the toddler enjoying her meal. Ishak takes another bite of his own bread, noting that it tastes surprisingly good. A sudden, sharp gasp sounding, Leah discovers the two children sharing a secret snack. Leah gently reminds the girl about the strict no-snack rule before their strawberry dessert. Acting quickly, Dublade points at Ishak, claiming he was the one who gave her bread. A sudden, quick turn sound, a soft, relieved sigh sounding, Leah allows the snack to slide because they shared nicely. Cradled in the black-haired maid's arms, Dublade beams with joy amidst a floral background. Leaving the room, the girl offers a cheerful wave and farewell to her older brother. A sudden, sharp thud sounding, Ishak is left speechless and blushing by her adorable goodbye. Sitting alone with his thoughts, the silver-haired boy stubbornly insists the girl is not cute. The scene shifts to a lavish, sun-drenched bedroom filled with ornate red and gold furniture. Leah notices how well the family got along in the dining hall earlier that day. While Leah praises her, Dublade secretly worries that the brothers actually despise her presence. Sitting alone, the small child resolves to survive in the castle until she finds asylum. A sudden, tight clench sounding, Dublade grips her fist with a new sense of determination. Standing against a backdrop of shattered glass, Dublade prepares for her next mission of charm. A soft, rhythmic chirp sounding, the sun rises on a new morning at the castle. A sudden, quick peek sounding, Dublade explores the hallways in a vibrant red dress. Clad in purple, the girl sits quietly on the stairs while observing the household's activity. A sudden, heavy stomp sounding, Dublade watches from the shadows as Henry leads his men. Henry trains with a wooden sword while the child continues her silent, watchful observation. Surrounded by guards, the silver-haired boy remains focused on his duties despite the girl's presence. With a determined look, Dublade decides to ask her brothers to play right after lunch. Donning sunglasses, the girl assumes a secret agent persona to navigate the castle unnoticed. The camera pans over the grand dining hall meticulously prepared for a formal family meal. A brown-haired man smiles warmly, inquiring about the whereabouts of the household's little miss. Standing before the massive doors, Dublade hesitates, wondering how to make a perfect, charming entrance. The brown-haired man laughs at the girl's shy behavior as she finally enters the room. The silver-haired duke commands the girl to approach. To everyone's astonishment, Dublade climbs onto the duke's lap and sits with complete confidence. A sudden collective gasp sounding, the gathered men react with shock to her informal behavior. The men whisper in disbelief as the child comfortably claims a seat on the duke's lap. The men praise her appetite while Ishak quietly admits his own secret hatred for carrots. A soft, rhythmic drumming sounding, the duke leans back and enjoys the praise directed at Dublade. Dublade sits at the table, feeling the weight of the intense and sweaty atmosphere. The girl puts on a bright, joyful smile and greets the room with a wave. The household men erupt in boisterous laughter, charmed by the toddler's sudden and adorable display. Henry and Ishak watch skeptically while Dublade realizes her plan is not going as expected. A gray-haired older man enters the hall, apologizing with a bow for his late arrival. A close-up reveals the stern and cold gaze of the gray-haired man named Tamore. Recognizing the man from her past, Dublade stares in shock as a dark dread settles in. Tamore sits close to the duke, leading the girl to wonder about his high-ranking status. A sudden, sharp realization sounding, the girl recalls a woman fleeing through a dark, floral hallway. In a dark memory, two men discuss the danger brought upon a man by his actions. A dark, hooded figure is revealed, forever branded with the sickening label of a child abuser. Dublade reflects on Taramore's childless state, questioning who he could have possibly abused so long ago. The brown-haired girl watches her brothers, realizing the truth of their past might be tragically obvious. An ominous thought lingers that crazy and terrible things happen in the shadows all the time. A brown-haired woman expresses her shock upon hearing that a young girl was beaten by her tutor. The man and woman lament the terrible abuse, noting that such tragedies occur even in this world. The woman reflects on the abuse she witnessed in her old world, from nannies to kindergarten teachers. Analyzing her brothers, Dublade suspects the aggressive Ishak might have been the primary target of abuse. Ishak inquires about her meal while Dublade nervously insists that the food is very yummy. With a determined look, the girl resolves to check her brothers for any hidden signs of harm. Clad in a yellow dress, Dublade urges her companion to hurry toward the castle's grand greenhouse. The group arrives at a magnificent sunlit indoor garden filled with exotic plants and water features. While the men talk, Dublade prepares to launch her secret mission to inspect the silver-haired boy. Dublade cheerfully approaches Henry, asking him to play while he remains focused on his wooden sword. Henry acts annoyed by her attention, though his blushing face suggests he is secretly flustered. Dublade carefully inspects Henry, noting the absence of obvious bruises or scars on his neck or ankles. Noticing some scratches on the boy, Dublade wonders if they are from rigorous training or actual violence. The girl focuses on Henry's sleeves, desperate to find any evidence of the abuse she suspects occurred. Deciding she needs a closer look, Dublade prepares to execute a daring and calculated maneuver. A sudden, quick stumble sounding, the girl fakes a fall to test the silver-haired boy's reflexes. Henry catches her instantly, his stoic expression breaking into one of genuine concern and alarm. After Dublade thanks him, Henry offers a polite smile and tells her to think nothing of it. LeBlanc observes that while the boy smiles, his eyes remain chillingly distant and guarded. Despite his cold exterior, the girl realizes Henry isn't a bad person, just emotionally scarred. While Ishak pouts nearby, Dublade reflects on the terrifying power an adult's hand can hold over children. A sudden, sharp slide sounding, the girl's attention is captured by the approach of an unwanted guest. Tamore looms over Dublade, his polite smile masking a dark and predatory energy as he watches them. A small, purple-haired mascot character waves a cheerful goodbye amidst a backdrop of falling rain. A sudden, heavy grasp sounding, a dark, gloved hand reaches out toward the unsuspecting toddler. Taramore's expression turns disturbingly sinister as he comments on the softness of a child's hands. A soft, rhythmic stroke sounding, the man's gloved hand pets Dublade's head in an unsettling manner. Paralyzed with fear, Dublade stares up at the monster, her eyes vibrating with sheer, raw terror. The girl has a horrifying epiphany, confirming that Tamore is the same monster from her past life. In a memory, the hooded abuser frantically demands to be sent out of the country in fear. The man flees into the night, desperate to escape a death he knows he deserves. A brown-haired man confronts the abuser, holding him fully responsible. The man offers the coward a chance to flee if he helps expose the family's dark crimes. The chilling truth is confirmed. Count Tamore is exactly the same evil person he was before. As Tamore attempts to lead the children away, Dublade resolves that this will not happen. Dublade, Ishak, and Henri react with collective shock to an unexpected development in the greenhouse. A massive, frantic scream for Nos echoes through the training ground's ornate and sun-drenched halls. The brown-haired aide Nos stands firmly beside a guard, focused on the unfolding situation. Henry's cold and sharp gaze reflects a deep, simmering resentment toward the unwanted visitors. Tamore explains Nos' presence while the brown-haired girl sports a triumphant and smug little grin. Dublade revels in her cleverness, knowing Nos is the only one who can handle the count. Tamore offers a polite smile, masking his true intentions behind a thin facade of kindness. An oppressive darkness reveals a haunting memory of chained children, hinting at Tamore's secret cruelty. Tamore departs the training grounds, leaving the silver-haired boys and the young girl behind. The guard watches Tamore leave, while Nos remains to oversee the children's afternoon session. Nos informs Henri that Tamore will be in charge of their education once again. Dublade watches the two men talk, her large blue eyes shifting with nervous and fearful anticipation. A sudden, sharp realization sounding, the girl understands that deep fear always reveals a person's truth. Henri is shown in a dark memory, clutching his arm in pain amidst a backdrop of roses. The scene shifts back to the present as warm sunbeams filter through vibrant green garden leaves. A guard commands the boys to resume their match as Dublade and Henri much. Surrounded by foliage, the girl wonders how she can help her brothers without any proof. Dublade sits beside Henri, remembering the special seat Nos prepared for her comfort and safety. The girl shakes her head, realizing that accusing Tamore without evidence would be completely futile. The toddler worries that without proof, she will be seen as the strange one. Dublade's eyes shimmer with worry as she observes Henri's distant and chillingly guarded expression. Sitting among blue flowers, the girl wishes Henri would speak up about his own hidden pain. A sudden, sharp thud sounding, Dublade is jolted from her thoughts by a loud, startling noise. With a look of pure astonishment, the girl witnesses an incredible and sudden display of power. Henri stands bathed in light, his eyes glowing as he manifests a powerful, swirling blue aura. A sudden, bright flash sounding, the onlookers are stunned by the elite aura Henri now possesses. An image of a legendary holy knight appears, representing the absolute pinnacle of warrior strength. The onlookers are shocked that a child can wield such an advanced aura at his age. Charging forward with incredible speed, Henri prepares to strike with his glowing and powerful blue blade. A sudden, loud clack sounding, Henri shatters the instructor's wooden sword with a single, lightning-fast blow. The terrified instructor falls to his knees, frantically surrendering to the young master's overwhelming power. Raising his sword coldly, Henri declares that there is no surrender in a real clash. A sudden, sharp thud sounding, Henri stabs his sword into the floor near the cowering instructor. With a chilling and murderous gaze, the silver-haired boy promises to finish the match properly. Paralyzed with fear, Dublade watches the terrifying intensity of her older brother's raw, hidden rage. After the display of power, Henri returns to the bench while Ishak watches from afar. From Ishak's perspective, the girl looks like a fragile flower pleading for his protection and care. A sudden, quick blush sounding, Ishak is overwhelmed by the toddler's adorable and shimmering blue gaze. Taking a mental note, Dublade resolves to avoid making the powerful and scary silver-haired boys angry. The instructor begs for mercy, mentioning his family, while Ishak dismisses the whole ordeal as boring. A sudden, sharp clank sounding, Ishak drops his interest as the instructor cries in absolute relief. The girl lets out a soft sigh, glad the tense and scary situation has finally passed. Letting out a soft, tired sigh, Henri looks exhausted, while the girl watches him with curiosity. Henri looks down with a somber expression as he prepares to leave the training area. Ishak stands up and declares it is finally his turn to face the next training opponent. The girl wonders about the extent of Henri's strength as she prepares for the next match. The command to resume the match echoes through the sun-drenched training hall once more. Ishak faces off against a guard, his posture firm and his expression chillingly focused. Bathed in a swirl of blue energy, the silver-haired boy reveals a cold and powerful presence. A sudden sharp turn sounding, Ishak notes that his opponent is not actually that strong. Unleashes a terrifying aura, sending his opponent flying with a frantic, painful scream sounding. The match is declared over as the silver-haired boy stands victoriously amidst swirling blue energy. Paralyzed by what she witnessed, Dublade stares in shock, her eyes wide with deep concern. Gasping for air, the defeated instructor acknowledges the boy's overwhelming and unexpected combat prowess. The air thrums with disbelief as the onlookers realize the child is incredibly, dangerously strong. Dublade questions why someone as powerful as Henri would ever submit to Tamore's sickening abuse. Watching her brother, the girl wonders why an elite warrior would fear a weak old man. The gray-haired instructor urges the silver-haired boy to continue the rigorous and intense training session. Clashing swords, Leblanc realizes Henri could easily kill Tamore if he truly fought back. A sudden, sharp clatter sounding, the girl watches the duel, mesmerized by her brother's speed. Leblanc notes that even the previous opponent seemed far stronger than this struggling old soldier. The girl watches with intense blue eyes, sensing that something is very wrong with Henri. Spectators whisper, wondering if the young master is simply going easy on the aging soldier. The old instructor's face twists with frustration and visible pride as the match continues poorly. Exploding in anger, the man attacks Henri, shouting for him not to dare underestimate him. A sudden, sharp slice sounding, the silver-haired boy is grazed, his eyes widening in pure shock. Gripping his wooden blade, Henri's blue eyes glow as he prepares to strike back coldly. A dark, scaly shadow looms in Henri's mind, triggering a sudden and deep-seated panic. The instructor lunges again while Leblanc realizes with horror that her brother is about to get hurt. Rushing into the fray, the girl shouts for them to stop, desperately shielding her brother. Henri stares down at his little sister, his stoic facade breaking into one of utter bewilderment. Leblanc fiercely scolds the instructor, declaring that attacks fueled by raw emotion are nothing but violence. Stunned by the child's wisdom, the gray-haired man bows his head in deep, visible shame. The man offers a sincere apology to Henri as an ominous, dark energy begins to fade. Henri calls off the match, walking away while Leblanc watches him with a heavy heart. Dark purple flowers bloom in the background, signaling a shift toward a more somber realization. A sudden, quick whoosh sounding, Henri lifts his shirt to reveal a fresh, bleeding wound. A sudden, frantic dash sounding, the brown-haired girl runs toward her injured and stoic brother. Moving in a blur of concern, Leblanc demands to see the wound her brother is hiding. The girl insists on treating him immediately, her blue eyes shimmering with worry and determination. Henri looks flustered and tearful as Leblanc wonders if he is simply afraid of the doctor. Henri yells that he isn't afraid of doctors, he just absolutely hates all old people. Staring at her brother, Leblanc begins to suspect a much darker reason for his specific hatred. Puzzle pieces fall into place as the words Henri and old man connect in her mind. A memory reveals Cain Dublade, a monster who allegedly murdered his own son, Chris. The chilling story continues, explaining that Chris was murdered simply because he possessed a limp. The ruthless Duke declared he had no use for a flawed child before committing the crime. A horrifying thought strikes Leblanc. What if Henri witnessed his own father's brutal murder? A memory shows a terrified young Henri covering his mouth while witnessing an unspeakable family tragedy. The girl realizes that Henri is deeply traumatized by the cruelty of powerful older men. Leblanc reflects sadly on how Henri was just a helpless child when he saw that horror. She realizes Tamore weaponized that trauma to hide his own abuse from the Dublade Duke. Chilling scars are revealed on the boy's back, hidden beneath the weight of his dark past. Clenching her fists, Leblanc seethes with rage at the rotten old geezer who exploited her brother. Letting out a soft, shaky sigh sounding, the girl tries to control the fury boiling inside. Leblanc resolves to keep quiet for now, knowing the powerful Tamore is currently more credible. The toddler worries that without proof, she might be seen as strange or even be disowned. Henri looks away with a somber expression as the weight of his secrets lingers between them. A sudden, soft tremble sounding, Henri's hand shakes, betraying the raw terror he still carries. Standing among the roses, Leblanc vows to protect her brother from the monsters of his past. Leblanc gently pats Henri's head, her eyes soft with a protective and newfound warmth. Surprised by the sudden affection, the silver-haired boy stares at her with wide, bewildered eyes. Flashing a radiant and innocent smile, the girl tries to comfort her stoic older brother. Delicate feathers drift through the air, signaling a brief moment of peace amidst the garden. A sudden, soft whisper sounding, Leblanc vows to protect Henri from the cruelty he fears. Her expression darkening with worldly wisdom, the girl plans to humble the arrogant Tamore soon. Bathed in brilliant morning light, the grand towers of the ducal palace stand tall and imposing. Surrounded by vibrant purple flowers, Leblanc carefully weaves a delicate crown with her tiny hands. Leah asks if she likes violets, and the toddler happily agrees they are very pretty. A sudden, quick squint sounding, Leblanc's eyes narrow as she devises a secret and clever plan. Looking at her watch, the black-haired maid notes the time while Leblanc remains deep in thought. The toddler takes a deep breath, mentally preparing for the upcoming and difficult confrontation. A sudden, soft shiver sounding, Leblanc mentions she is cold, prompting Leah to suggest going inside. A sudden, sharp tap sounding, the girl insists on finishing her gift for her brothers first. Holding up a flower crown, Leblanc's adorable gesture leaves the maid completely and visibly moved. A sudden, quick peek sounding, the girl watches the guards from the safety of Leah's arms. Sitting among blue and white blossoms, the girl enjoys a quiet and sweet moment outdoors. Looking back at the massive estate, Dublade considers the heavy responsibilities of her new life. A sudden, mischievous giggle sounding, the girl imagines scolding the rotten old man for Henry's sake. A sudden, loud clatter sounding, a brown-haired man greets the young lady with visible surprise. With a bright and determined look, Dublade announces her urgent desire to see the Duke. A sudden, quick huff sounding, the Duke asks why she has come while Karn carries her. While appearing adorable, the girl is actually focused on gathering vital information from the Duke's conversation. Karn asks about the progress of the new advisory body while the silver-haired Duke works. Sunbeams filter through the large library window, casting a warm and scholarly glow on the room. The quiet atmosphere of the study remains undisturbed as the two men discuss high-stakes political matters. A sudden, sharp thud sounding, the Duke explains the complex power dynamics between his various retainers. A sudden, quick blink sounding, Dublade reacts with shock upon hearing Taramore's name mentioned. Karn explains that Tamore and Lord Misink are bitter, long-standing rivals within the noble circle. A sudden, bright flash sounding, a light bulb appears as Dublade realizes Tamore has powerful enemies. A sudden, loud stomp sounding, someone approaches the gates as the girl watches with anticipation. Excitedly watching the entrance, Dublade whispers that her target for the plan has finally arrived. A majestic banner featuring a blue lion hangs prominently, representing a noble and influential house. Viscount Karn Misink, head of his family, stands tall as he is formally announced at the gate. His sharp, reddish-brown eyes narrow with intense focus as he observes the scene before him. Karn expresses his profound surprise at meeting the famous child of fate in such a place. A sudden, soft whistle sounding, the man comments on the chilly weather, while Dublade waits patiently. A sudden, quick fwish sounding, the girl spins around with a sparkling and innocent expression. Dublade mentions that she and her brothers will soon begin lessons under the infamous Tamore. Karn scoffs in derision, insulting Taramore's weak family background and lack of true scholarly learning. A sudden, quick shake sounding, Dublade intentionally praises the old man to further agitate the Viscount. The toddler's eyes shimmered with faux excitement, playing her role in the manipulative game perfectly. A narrative panel describes the dark and mysterious symbols representing the powerful elders of Dublade. Dublade brings up the legendary dark purple robe, the ultimate prize the Viscount desperately desires. Panic-stricken, Karn asks if the Duke truly intends to give that prestigious robe away. Exploding with frustration, the brown-haired man insists that the coveted position should rightfully be his. A sudden, quick tilt sounding, the girl wonders aloud if the chairman has already made a decision. Dark roses bloom as she mentions the idiot who will soon be shedding tears of blood. A sudden, loud laugh sounding, Dublade asks if the man wants to watch the outcome together. Taramore's face contorts with a sudden, sharp grit sounding as his frustration boils over. Karn Misink dismisses himself, leaving a watchful and satisfied Dublade behind in the corridor. Clenching her tiny fist, the brown-haired girl cheers Karn on to take down Tamore. A sudden, loud thud sounding, the scene shifts to the high-stakes world of the council. Nobles protest the establishment of a new advisory body that threatens their historical power. Jean-Marc Noyenac, the council chairman, remains unsettlingly calm despite the rising tensions in the room. Panning down, the chairman reminds the room that servants must always obey their master's words. Visibly shaken, the brown-haired Karn reacts with shock to the chairman's dismissive and cold words. Jean-Marc raises his wineglass in a chilling toast as red flowers frame his smile. Tamore looks anxious as he is called forward by the imposing and powerful Jean-Marc Noyenac. The chairman lectures on teaching the young masters, his golden eye glowing with predatory intensity. A lone silhouette stands atop a mound, representing the council's desire for absolute ideological alignment. Tamore smiles wickedly, confident that his sinister preparations for the young masters are finally complete. Karn and his associates laugh while Henri watches the manipulative social game with stoic eyes. A sudden, soft tremble sounding, Karn's hand shakes as he barely restrains his simmering noble rage. In the grand hallway, nobles discuss the Duke's plan to finally wear the Elder's robe. Tamore reflects on his climb from insignificance, believing his long-awaited opportunity has finally arrived. Memories of being overlooked by younger nobles fuel the resentment burning deep within Taramore's heart. Believing times have changed, the gray-haired instructor prepares to exert control over the Dublade household. Tamore plans to exploit Henry's deep-seated trauma to mold the silver-haired boy into a puppet. The ruthless instructor views Ishak as a simple target who can easily be broken mentally. A sinister and wide grin spreads across Taramore's face as he contemplates his upcoming triumph. Overwhelmed by greed, Tamore celebrates the day he will finally be recognized as a powerful elder. Karn laughs dismissively, silently mocking the instructor's foolish and transparently desperate attempt at social climbing. Walking through the opulent halls, Karn ridicules those who betray their families for unattainable dreams. Mocking Taramore's lack of true status, Karn suggests that seniority is meaningless for a servant. Karn openly insults Taramore, reminding the old man that he was once a mere attendant. Whispers ripple through the onlookers as Taramore's shameful past is exposed in a public confrontation. Looming over the instructor, Karn mocks the absurdity of a former servant tutoring young masters. A sudden, soft whisper sounding, Karn leans in to taunt Taramore about knowing his weaknesses. Taramore is struck speechless, his eyes widening in pure terror at the threat to his reputation. Karn warns the instructor not to covet a noble position that is far beyond his station. Consumed by a murderous fury, Taramore's internal voice vows to tear apart those who insult him. Dublade walks through the palace, surrounded by maids and the beauty of blooming flower arrangements. A sudden, quick tap sounding, the toddler pauses to consider the progress of her clever plan. Peeking through the flowers, Dublade watches with a mischievous glint, ready for the next move. Tensions explode as various noble factions argue over the suitability of the family's new tutor. Henri watches Karn's dirty political maneuvers with a smirk, appreciating the effectiveness of the manipulation. Retainers express their horror at the thought of a former servant like Taramore becoming an elder. Using a chart, Karn and his allies argue that Taramore is ruining Ishak's academic performance. Taramore stands isolated as public opinion shifts heavily in favor of the rival Duke Mizink. Dublade hides her giggles behind her tiny hands, thrilled to have successfully stirred up chaos. The maids observe Leblain's cheerful demeanor, unaware that she is secretly relishing her wicked success. A maid with pink hair brightly presents a new rocking horse to the young mistress. The blonde and pink-haired maids argue passionately over which gift will please Dublade more. A sudden, loud shout sounding, the two maids declare an intense rivalry over Leblain's affection. Feeling slightly overwhelmed, Dublade resolves to simply pretend she is having fun with her caretakers. Two caretakers lead Dublade down the stairs, her expression a mix of bewilderment and forced cheer. Henri stands among the flowers with his books, skeptically asking if Dublade is just a child. Waving goodbye, the toddler watches her silver-haired brother head off toward his scheduled training sessions. Henri explains his quick finish on the exam, while Dublade reacts with silent, wide-eyed suspicion. As narrative text highlights Ishak's intellect, a sudden, sharp crack sounding marks Leblain's internal realization. Maids cry out in alarm as the young mistress suddenly rushes down the grand staircase. A sudden, loud bang sounding, Dublade realizes Henri was deliberately sabotaged by the cruel instructor. Reaching for the door, a sudden, sharp gasp sounding, the girl witnesses a horrifying scene. Dublade bursts in to see Taramore looming over the kneeling and visibly distressed silver-haired boy. The girl realizes the violence was never about discipline, but about the instructor's own twisted pleasure. Clenching her teeth, Dublade vows to make the bastard pay for hurting her beloved brother. Hiding his malice, Taramore insists with a fake smile that he would never strike his student. With fire in her blue eyes, Dublade declares she will take full responsibility for what comes next. Taramore describes his abuse as a gentle touch, his words framed by dark and thorny flowers. The instructor's inner thoughts reveal a deep-seated desire to vent his inferiority onto noble children. A sudden, quick blink sounding, Dublade watches Taramore's hand as he reaches for a sharp pen. A sudden, sharp shing sounding, Dublade stabs the instructor's hand, a sudden, loud scream sounding. Clutching his bleeding wound, the gray-haired man gasps in pure shock at the toddler's violent intervention. Standing protectively before Henri, Dublade coldly echoes the man's words about caressing him with love. A narrative shift occurs as a cheerful chibi character appears amidst a sea of purple blossoms. A sudden, soft tremble sounding, Henri stares at his sister in absolute stunned silence. Standing among blooming roses, Dublade remains focused on the aftermath of her daring and dangerous choice. With a soft and determined smile, the brown-haired girl reaches out a comforting hand to Henri. Leading her brother away, the two children walk through the golden light toward the massive doors. A sudden, sharp grit sounding, Taramore's face contorts with a murderous and agonizing rage. Peerless and cold, Leblain's blue gaze fixes on the man as she remains by Henry's side. A sudden, soft whisper sounding, the girl warns Taramore that his abusive secret is finally out. A sudden, loud thud sounding, the weight of the girl's threat leaves the instructor visibly shaken. Swirling shades of red and black represent the intense and simmering malice between the two enemies. An oppressive darkness settles over the corridor as the heavy scene reaches its tense conclusion. Standing in the brightly lit hallway, the two siblings remain close, the golden doors closed behind. Looking anxious and small, Dublade waits for her brother's reaction, a sudden, soft whimper sounding. A sudden, loud shout sounding, Henri demands to know if she is insane for what she did. Startled by his outburst, Leblain's wide blue eyes reflect her shock at Henri's intense questioning. Henri warns of dire consequences, insisting that Lord Taramore is a vile and dangerous enemy. Looking down at her cherry-patterned dress, the girl considers the heavy weight of her brother's words. Walking away into the light, Henri leaves Leblanc alone to face the consequences of her actions. A sudden, soft sob sounding, the girl covers her face, terrified of what tomorrow might bring. Silhouettes against a grand window depict a scene of abuse, a painful memory haunting the siblings. With pleading eyes, Leblanc offers to seek help from a princess instead of the doctor. A sudden, soft gasp sounding, Henri is visibly moved by his sister's selfless and caring nature. Despite his internal turmoil, Henri pushes her away, telling her to mind her own business. A sudden, sharp whish sounding, the silver-haired boy demands her silence regarding the day's events. Leblanc stands in silent sorrow, watching as her brother withdraws further into his own pain. A sudden, loud stomp sounding, Tamore marches down the hallway, his face twisted in frustration. Cursing the damned girl, the instructor clenches his fist, his mind racing with hateful thoughts. Protected by his pride, Tamore insists he was only disciplining the boy with gentle care. Trembling with visible rage, the man realizes that Leblanc is no ordinary 4-year-old child. The girl's oppressive presence continues to haunt Taramore's thoughts, filling him with a strange dread. Imagining her as a literal demon, Tamore believes the child of fate is actually a monster. Convinced the temple sent a demon, the man rushes through the halls in a frantic state. A sudden, dark smirk sounding, the gray-haired instructor vows he will not lose to the girl. Determined to reclaim his power, Tamore finally reaches the imposing doors of the Duke's private office. A sudden, deep thud sounding, Tamore knocks at the Duke's door to begin his desperate report. Tamore trembles, fearing that the silver-haired boy has already exposed his cruel and abusive treatment. A sudden, loud bang sounding, the instructor bursts into the office, pleading for a fair hearing. Karn and Ishak watch with cold, suspicious eyes as the instructor makes his frantic and desperate scene. A sudden, quick flinch sounding, Tamore realizes from the Duke's icy expression that he is already doomed. Panicked, Tamore blames everything on the baby, claiming she is orchestrating a wicked scheme against him. The silver-haired Duke's blue eyes burn with a lethal intensity as he stares down the lying man. Karn mocks the instructor's outburst as the atmosphere in the office becomes suffocatingly tense and heavy. Peeking from behind the Duke, Leblanc mockingly sticks out her tongue at the terrified and confused instructor. Leblanc's inner voice reveals her brilliant trap. She manipulated Tamore into acting guilty by using bait. Tamore collapses in despair, realizing the girl never actually reported him. He exposed himself out of fear. Comparing himself to a chess piece, Tamore resentfully reflects on his years of service to the family. Despite the silver-haired boy's trauma-induced silence, Taramore's own panicking has drawn everyone's unwanted attention. Karn points out that Taramore's defensive behavior reveals a much darker secret than the simple mistake. The Duke's overwhelming presence looms over the room as the investigation into the instructor's conduct begins. A sudden, soft giggle sounding, Leblanc relishes her perfect victory over the man who hurt her brother. A moment of transition highlights the various perspectives involved in the unfolding and intense family drama. In the grand hall, Karn argues that the instructor's behavior is far too suspicious to ignore. Karn demands an immediate investigation as Tamore stands dejected and broken in the background. Tamore pathetically tries to address the Duke, but is met with a soul-crushing and silent glare. A sudden, sharp clack sounding, Taramore's footsteps echo as he is finally cast out in disgrace. Behind closed doors, Tamore curses the toddler, his face contorted in a mask of hateful rage. A sudden, quick flinch sounding, Tamore is startled as the girl appears to enjoy his downfall. A sudden, soft giggle sounding, Leblanc smiles amidst blooming poppies, celebrating her successful and cunning trap. Facing his murderous threats, the toddler remains completely unfazed, challenging the man to do his worst. Tamore desperately vows to expose the girl as a demon sent from the temple to destroy them. Leblanc mocks his stupidity, pointing out that his own words have already ruined his reputation forever. Tamore trembles, realizing that the council will think he is merely lying to save his own skin. A sudden, loud crash sounding, the man lunges at the girl in a final, murderous fit of rage. Flashing back to her past, Leblanc reveals that she learned to bite back while living as a beggar. A sudden, dark growl sounding, a monstrous black dog represents the girl's hidden and savage protective nature. A sudden, sharp gasp sounding, the impact of her terrifying presence leaves Tamore completely and utterly paralyzed. Leblanc coldly threatens to destroy his other hand, warning the instructor not to underestimate a mere child. A sudden, quick flinch sounding, Tamore cowers before the toddler's overwhelming and dark power. Memories of her life in the back alleys fuel Leblanc's absolute indifference to his noble-born threats. A sudden, soft hum sounding, the girl walks through the flowers with eyes glowing a cold blue. Lord Mashenke stands tall with his allies, demanding Taramore's immediate and permanent suspension from all duties. Guards roughly seize the instructor, ordering the disgraced and broken man to leave the palace at once. A sudden, sharp bang sounding, a formal document confirms Taramore's suspension, ending his reign over Henri. Nobles discuss Lord Mashenke's rise to power, while the man smiles, grateful for the unexpected opportunity. Leblanc wears a pretty green dress, looking like a perfectly innocent child amidst the cherry blossoms. With a gentle and warm smile, Lord Mashenke offers his humble help to the young mistress. Leblanc is momentarily confused by the sudden and overwhelming kindness from the brown-haired lord. Lord Mashenke's deep gratitude is portrayed as a serene Buddha, his heart filled with peaceful thanks. Winking at the toddler, the man admits he is now deeply in her debt for her help. A sudden, soft gasp sounding, Leblanc realizes she has unexpectedly won a powerful and useful ally. Acting like an adorable toddler, Leblanc manipulates the situation to solidify her new and beneficial alliance. A sudden, sharp pierce sounding, Mashenke and the nobles are completely charmed by the girl's heart-melting act. A sudden, bright bloom sounding, the brown-haired girl vows to become a cool adult, capturing everyone's hearts. A sudden, soft cough sounding, Mashenke blushes slightly while promising to help her whenever she needs. Leblanc smiles brightly amidst flowers as a system notification confirms her growing bond. Waving goodbye, Leblanc watches as the men depart for their important meeting. With her blue eyes glowing, Leblanc begins to formulate her next clever plan. A decorative frame captures Leblanc's concern as she decides to check on Henri. Sunlight spills through a cracked door, revealing the quiet study where Henri resides. Peeking into the room, Leblanc hopes to avoid making Henri angry with her presence. A sudden, loud shout sounding, Leblanc is nearly jumped out of her skin by a surprise. Ishak confronts Leblanc, accusing the startled girl of spying on them from the doorway. Leblanc nervously denies the spying, though Ishak remains highly suspicious of her intentions. In her adorable chibi form, Leblanc insists she was only taking a quick look. Looking into Ishak's eyes, Leblanc worries that being caught might upset Henri even further. A somber darkness settles as the news of Taramore's arrival at the castle is revealed. Concerned maids discuss the investigation and the danger the villainous Taramore poses to the children. Surrounded by purple blossoms, Leblanc's inner resolve hardens to protect Henri from any further harm. Ishak scoffs with his arms crossed, believing he has finally figured out his sister's secret. Leblanc's internal thoughts shift toward the spreading rumors regarding Taramore's cruelty toward the young master. Radiating excitement, Ishak reveals that cake is being served for their snack today. Looking blankly at her energetic brother, Leblanc wonders if Ishak is actually a simpleton. A transitional banner appears, signaling a shift in the story's focus and atmosphere. A beautifully illustrated notification marks a brief pause in the unfolding family drama. Ishak lectures Leblanc about her greed while the girl is mesmerized by a chocolate cake. Humping with pride, Ishak tries to play hard to get regarding the sweets he saved. Ishak stubbornly claims he doesn't like sweets, though his blushing face tells a different story. Leblanc reminds him of his love for sugar buns, causing Ishak to shout in embarrassment. A close-up of Leblanc's shimmering blue eyes reflects her realization of her brother's hidden kindness. Henri stands silently by the window, appearing calm and free from any immediate physical pain. Following the two silver-haired boys, Leblanc enters the room to join them for their snack. Clutching her fork, Leblanc stares in pure awe at the delicious chocolate cake before her. Overcome with emotion, Leblanc tearfully thanks Ishak for the treat while he acts flustered. When Ishak offers more tomorrow, Leblanc declares him the absolute best with a happy smile. Basking in her praise, Ishak promises to share even more cake during their dinner tonight. A look of pure appetite fills Leblanc's eyes as she imagines the endless supply of sweets. Ishak basks in the attention, while Leblanc happily concludes that anyone with cake is good. Standing together among the flowers, the two silver-haired brothers share a moment of quiet connection. With a messy face and a wide grin, Leblanc happily devours her well-earned chocolate cake. A sudden, soft creak sounding, an ornate door slowly opens to reveal a dark, hidden corridor. Maids peek through the opening, gushing over the heart-melting and sweet bond between the siblings. The orange glow of sunset fades through the grand window, signaling the end of the day. Moonlight begins to filter into the hallway as the scene shifts into the deep night. As the boys continue their studies, a sleepy Leblanc begins to drift off at the table. Determined to stay awake, the chibi girl stubbornly refuses to give in to her exhaustions. A sudden, soft scritch sounding, the quill dances across the parchment as the children finish work. Fighting her heavy eyelids, Leblanc decides to go wash her face to wake herself up. Hopping down from her chair, the young girl makes her way across the quiet, dimly lit room. Leblanc leans in to whisper a secret to Ishak, leaving the silver-haired boy visibly surprised. Her mind swirling with the day's events, Leblanc feels the immense weight of acting like an adult. Wandering through the dark, cavernous hallway, Leblanc searches for the washroom in the quiet palace. A A sudden, sharp gasp sounding, Tamore lunges from the shadows and clamps a hand over LeBlane's mouth. A sudden, loud thud sounding, the gray-haired man violently pins the helpless girl against the wall. Facing the villain's malice, LeBlane warns that her injuries will provide immediate proof of his dark crimes. The villainous Tamore reveals a glowing blue spinel, sending LeBlane into a state of shock. The rare blue spinel is a specialized gemstone designed to extract and siphon divine power. Its potency increases with color saturation, allowing the user to draw out even more energy. An oppressive darkness underscores the agonizing pain felt by anyone having their power drained away. Terrified children are shown in a bloody vision, representing the many victims of the spinel. LeBlane's eyes glow with blue fire, vowing she'd rather die than suffer through this fate. Bitter and broken, Tamore rants about losing his position and being abandoned by his chairman. The madman blames LeBlane for his ruin, ignoring her desperate orders to stay far away. Tamore taunts the girl, curious if help will arrive before her divine power is stripped. A sudden, sharp sounding, Tamore grabs Henri's throat as a voice demands LeBlane's release. A swift strike cuts through the air, targeting the man's arm to force a release. A sudden, bright flash sounding, Tamore recoils in agony as magical energy erupts in the room. Henry shields LeBlane with his body while the crazed instructor clings to the blue gemstone. Frozen by past trauma, Henri struggles to stand against Tamore despite LeBlane's silent pleas. A sudden, sharp sounding, the blue spinel shatters into pieces, leaving Tamore completely stunned. Tamore raises a hand to strike the boy, calling Henri an absolute piece of trash. Bravely, LeBlane screams for the villain to keep his filthy hands off her brother's body. A sudden, heavy slap sounding, Tamore's hand is violently repelled by an unseen magical force. A sudden, loud kung sounding, the entire mansion trembles under a massive surge of divine power. Surrounded by ghostly blue roses, the silver-haired Duke approaches with an aura of absolute cold. The Duke Dublade stands tall, his hand glowing as his aide and maid watch in awe. Terror grips Tamore's heart as he questions how the Duke could have arrived so fast. LeBlane reveals her cunning, admitting she baited Tamore into appearing in the dead of night. The brown-haired aide and black-haired maid watch the confrontation with looks of pure shock. Tamore begs for mercy, frantically claiming that the entire violent episode is just a misunderstanding. A sudden, loud scream sounding, the Duke's silent magic causes Tamore to collapse in horrific pain. The brown-haired aide realizes this major incident involving a Senate stooge will ruin the Senate. Violent visions of civil war haunt the aide, fearing the consequences if the Senate retaliates. The Duke calls out to Henri, causing the silver-haired boy to flinch in deep, visceral fear. Towering over them, the Duke demands that Henri explain the night's events with his own mouth. Henri attempts to dismiss the violence as nothing, but the Duke coldly claims the judgment. A sudden, loud scream sounding, Tamore continues to suffer while the children watch in terrified silence. LeBlane is completely mesmerized, witnessing the Duke activate high-level magic without any vocal incantations. Radiating divine power, the Duke stands in a halo of light, appearing truly incredible to LeBlane. Henri labels the ordeal as trivial, shocking LeBlane, who cannot believe he'd dismiss such violence. The boy admits he was merely waiting to see how long Tamore's ridiculous behavior would continue. The Duke sees through the lie, accusing Henri of manipulating the situation to gain political leverage. With icy eyes, the Duke declares his hatred for liars, especially if they are his family. The Duke shouts Henri's name, terrifying the boy as the weight of his anger descends. To everyone's absolute shock, LeBlane suddenly rushes forward and clings tightly to the Duke's leg. Henri stares down in disbelief, stunned by his little sister's bold intervention on his behalf. Sobbing, LeBlane cries out that the Duke is making Henri just as scared as the villain did. Large tears stream down LeBlane's face as she weeps, holding on to her guardian with all her strength. Henri stands frozen in the spotlight, his arms still held in the Duke's powerful, crushing grip. The Duke finally releases Henri, and the boy looks away in a mix of shame and relief. LeBlane runs toward Henri with a worried face, reaching out to comfort her older brother. A sudden, loud clang sounding, LeBlane nearly tackles Henri as she pulls him into a desperate hug. Looking up with fierce loyalty, LeBlane declares that Henri is definitely not a defective product. Henri gazes down at his sister, his cold expression finally softening into one of quiet amazement. LeBlane hugs Henri's arm tightly, her presence providing the warmth and protection he never expected. The silver-haired boy stands in frozen shock, his bright blue eyes wide with unspoken pain. Dark, thorny vines close in as the boy is cruelly labeled a defective product in his mind. A sudden, sharp push sounding, LeBlane flinches in surprise as the boy violently shoves her away. Henri shouts in a rage, cruelly reminding LeBlane that her adoption doesn't make them real siblings. Deep shadows fall over LeBlane as she stands paralyzed by her brother's sudden and cutting rejection. Henry's face contorts with anger as he tells the girl to get lost, leaving her behind. Amidst dark blooms, the brown-haired girl's eyes well with tears at Henry's cold and silent departure. A sudden, heavy thud sounding, Henry's footsteps echo as he retreats down the long, red-carpeted hall. Moonlight bathes the castle as Dublade becomes the only source of truth for the worried household. Fidgeting nervously, Dublade reveals the horrific truth that the instructor was physically abusing Henri. Pure fury erupts from the black-haired and brown-haired men as they curse the villainous instructor. Dublade realizes she must carefully navigate the truth to avoid deepening Henry's traumatic scars. The silver-haired Duke listens in grim silence, his cold gaze reflecting a growing internal storm. A sudden, heavy slam sounding, the Duke's hand strikes the table as he prepares his response. The Duke orders Tamore's immediate imprisonment, despite the black-haired man's concerns about the political council. A sudden, dark boom sounding, the Duke demands absolute secrecy regarding the details of Henry's abuse. Viscount Dubose questions the decision, but the Duke coldly dismisses the man from his presence. The black-haired man remains desperate to use this incident as leverage to finally dismantle the council. A sudden, sharp chill sounding, the Duke's glowing blue eye silences any further argument from his subordinates. A sudden, quick tap sounding, Dublade is led away as the Duke remains lost in thought. Walking through the palace, the men conclude the Duke is avoiding a civil war with the council. Na sighs heavily, believing the Duke is being far too cold toward his own suffering son. Dublade walks through the golden light, her expression thoughtful as she considers the family's complicated history. A dark flashback reveals the former Duke's manipulative smile looming over the current Duke's submissive posture. The Duke once performed countless dangerous tasks, his life dictated by the whims of a cruel predecessor. Surrounded by death and skeletons, the Duke's past as a reluctant warrior for a hated man unfolds. Slumped in exhaustion, the Duke's silent sacrifice was driven by the safety of the young lords. The former Duke held the silver-haired children hostage in a cage to ensure the Duke's unwavering loyalty. Dublade realizes that the Duke is now keeping secrets to protect Henri from public humiliation. Although he has the military power to crush the council, the Duke chooses a different path. The Duke looks down at the boy, realizing that his silence is a shield for Henri. Exposing the council would require publicizing Henry's deepest traumas, a price the Duke refuses to pay. Dark silhouettes depict the cruelty Henri endured, a vulnerability the Duke vows to keep hidden forever. A sudden, dark growl sounding, the instructor's menacing shadow represents the fear Henri cannot overcome alone. Standing by the window, the Duke's silent vigil confirms his resolve to protect his son's dignity. The Duke commands total silence from the staff to prevent any word of the abuse from leaking. Nas and the black-haired man discuss tightening castle security to ensure the young master's safety. Guards discuss the ongoing interrogation of Tamore, confident that the boy is finally safe from harm. Nose peeks into the quiet bedroom, noting that the young master has finally fallen into slumber. Henry lies still in the dim light, appearing peaceful as he rests after the day's turmoil. A sudden soft blink sounding, Henry's blue eye opens, revealing he is unable to find true peace. Wrapped in blankets, the boy remains buried in the deep darkness of his solitary, silent room. Henry's faint breathing is the only sound in the oppressive silence of the moonlit night. A sudden soft creak sounding, a heavy door slowly opens to reveal a sliver of light. Dublade peeks into the room, surrounded by blooming daisies as she searches for her brother. Hovering anxiously in her chibi form, Dublade wonders if Henri is finally asleep for the night. Creeping closer, Dublade is relieved to see Henri pretending to sleep as she approaches his bedside. A sudden soft pop sounding, Dublade opens a jar of healing ointment to treat her brother's wounds. A sudden light touch sounding, Dublade gently applies the cream to the red marks on Henri's neck. A sudden low groan sounding, Henri reacts to the medicine while Dublade makes a comical, panicked face. Henri remains deeply asleep, the silence of the night wrapping around his bed. A sudden soft sigh sounding, Dublade prepares to treat her brother's injuries in secret. Stepping lightly on her toes, the young girl carefully approaches the sleeping boy's bedside. Dublade gently pats Henry's back, offering silent comfort to soothe his troubled spirit. Tears stream down Henry's face as he remains trapped in a painful, restless slumber. A vibrant transition features a powerful woman, marking a shift in the story's perspective. Looking down with sadness, Dublade reflects on her own past experiences with physical suffering. Traumatic memories resurface of the black-haired man's cruelty and the cold iron of imprisonment. A memory of a kind hand provides a glimmer of hope during her darkest hours. Dublade whispers words of reassurance, hoping to be the salvation her brother needs tonight. A sudden, soft creak sounding, Dublade slips away as Henri awakens and mocks her arrival. Radiant with joy, the brown-haired girl's happy smile fills the floral-patterned background with light. The young girl's innocent gaze reflects the bright future she hopes to secure for herself. Henry's harsh words echo from the past, reminding Leblain of his initial cold rejection. Shadows fall over Leblain's face as she absorbs the weight of her brother's previous cruelty. A white butterfly flutters near a heavy chain, symbolizing the fragile hope amidst lingering fear. Henri recalls the paralyzing dread he felt whenever the instructor raised his hand in malice. The phantom of his grandfather looms, demanding perfection through shouts and terrifying expectations. A sudden, sharp realization fills Henry's eye as he remembers being labeled a defective product. Leblain's promise to protect him shines through the darkness, offering Henri a true salvation. A shattered shackle rests among the flowers, signaling the end of his long, silent torment. Maids excitedly discuss the downfall of the elders who supported the villainous instructor's appointment. The black-haired maid updates Leblain on the political concessions made by the Senate care. Tearful laughter fills the room as the maids celebrate the Senate's impending total collapse. With a sharp look, the black-haired maid commands silence to prevent any reckless, loose talk. News arrives that the instructor is suffering greatly in the depths of the underground prison. The staff's gleeful satisfaction highlights the absolute hatred they feel for the abusive man. Despite the good news, Leblain remains deeply concerned about Henry's ongoing emotional recovery. Noticing her distraction, the black-haired maid gently checks on the pensive, fox-eared young miss. Clinging to his cell bars, the gray-haired man screams desperate accusations about Leblain's secret. The villainous instructor plans his return to power, fueled by hatred and a thirst for revenge. Guards mock the prisoner's frantic rambling, dismissing his claims as the delusions of a madman. The dark-haired guard smirks, warning the instructor that his life is forfeit if he continues. Henri enters the dungeon with a cold expression, catching the instructor's desperate, hopeful attention. Ordering the guards to leave, the silver-haired boy prepares to face his tormentor alone. The gray-haired man begs for mercy, oblivious to the change in his former victim's demeanor. The instructor's true malice erupts as he vows to take revenge on the young girl. A sudden, sharp, sounding blue lightning strikes the instructor as Henri unleashes his power. Henry's glowing gaze pins the man down, leaving the instructor paralyzed by the boy's strength. Smiling with newfound confidence, Henry firmly declares that he is no longer a defective child. A surge of magical energy emanates from Henry's hand, illuminating the dark and cold dungeon. Memories of Leblain's unwavering support provide Henri with the strength to overcome his deepest fears. No longer afraid of the man's raised hand, Henri finally severs the chains of trauma. Walking away from the broken man, Henri leaves his past suffering behind in the shadows. A sudden, loud sounding, Henri claims his sister's name while the instructor screams in agony. Henri returns to the palace as a protector, while Leblain sleeps on, unaware of his deeds. Riding atop a massive white beast, Chibi Leblain enjoys a whimsical and safe afternoon dream. A beautifully illustrated announcement signals a brief pause as the family's intense drama unfolds further. Surrounded by a lush garden, the household enjoys a peaceful moment under the bright sun. Blissfully happy, Leblain devours her snack as the maids watch over her with warm smiles. The blonde, brown-haired, and pink-haired maids look at Linda, who smiles with warm, maternal affection. Linda reminds them of the little Miss's suffering, triggering a sudden, heavy boom sounding as the maids realize the truth. Discussing the lifelong impact of trauma, the maids worry for Leblain, who reflects on her own harsh past. The blonde and pink-haired maids burst into tears, deeply moved by Leblain's perceived emotional pain. Glowing with admiration, the maids view the little miss as a truly kind, smart, and precious child. The maids swarm Leblain with a tearful group hug, overwhelming the small girl with their intense affection. Leah laughs softly and tries to calm the emotional group, while Leblain watches in comical bewilderment. The pink-haired and blonde maids erupt in fury upon hearing that the instructor laid hands on Leblain. A sudden, sharp gleam sounding, Leah draws a knife, her expression darkening with lethal intent toward the instructor. The other maids and Leblain watch in absolute shock as Leah prepares for a violent, immediate confrontation. The maids struggle to hold Leah back as she vows to deal with the villainous Tamore personally. A sudden, loud roar sounding, Leah charges away with her knife while the others panic at her terrifying intensity. Leah later leads the little miss through a blooming garden, asking where they should venture next. Leblain observes the Duke's terrifyingly stoic expression, noting how busy and stressed he has appeared lately. A sudden, soft clatter sounding, the Duke and Leblain share a quiet meal in the grand, ornate dining hall. Leblain feels the onset of indigestion due to the Duke's oppressive and silent presence at the table. The silver-haired Ishak enters the dining room and offers a formal greeting to the silent, intimidating Duke. Henri follows his brother, greeting his father for the first time since locking himself away in his room. Leblain recalls how Henri had forbidden everyone from entering his room after the traumatic incident with Tamore. Watching Henri approach the table, Leblain is relieved to see that her brother looks much better. LeBlanc expresses her genuine relief and happiness that Henri has finally recovered from his recent emotional ordeal. Ishak eats in silence, finding the food good, but the atmosphere incredibly stifling and uncomfortable. The Duke remains stoic and quiet, leaving LeBlaine to wonder if normal conversation is even possible here. LeBlaine compares her current situation to other noble families, realizing the Dublades are a bit extreme. The Duke's intense gaze makes LeBlaine worried that the relationship between father and son has worsened. Henri breaks the silence, requesting a leave from the academy to receive his education within the territory instead. The Duke asks for the specific reason behind the sudden request while LeBlaine watches the exchange anxiously. Henri explains he wants to manage local affairs to minimize rumors following the recent scandal with the instructor. The Duke grants his permission with a simple, cold affirmation, ending the brief discussion immediately. LeBlaine is horrified by the dysfunctional family dynamics, finding the silent group far worse than total strangers. Looking across the table, LeBlaine feels the vast emotional distance between the Duke and his young sons. The Duke looks at LeBlaine with a faint, rare smile, his blue eyes softening with unexpected warmth. A sudden, soft tap sounding, the Duke places a strawberry on LeBlaine's plate, thinking she wanted one. LeBlaine stares at the single strawberry, stunned by the Duke's clumsy but sincere gesture of parental care. Henri finishes his portion and wipes his mouth, while the dining table remains mostly silent and awkward. The Duke looks confused, wondering what is wrong as he notices the boys staring at his action. Ishak and Henri stare at LeBlaine, perplexed by the interaction and her reaction to the Duke's gift. LeBlanc suddenly shouts that Henri is actually the one who likes strawberries, hoping to bridge the gap. A sudden, quick slide sounding, the boys and the Duke are stunned as LeBlaine intervenes in the silence. The Duke wordlessly hands another strawberry to the silver-haired boys as the table atmosphere shifts slightly. Henri awkwardly thanks the Duke, realizing LeBlaine is trying to improve their difficult family relationship. Vibrant flowers surround a message of hope, suggesting that their bond will slowly get better over time. The Duke tells the boys to stop fighting while the brothers bicker over who started the noisy argument. The Duke clears his throat to end the petty dispute, maintaining his stern but composed authority. LeBlaine giggles happily, noting that Ishak is also part of the family's chaotic but improving bond. Beaming with joy, the young girl shouts for more strawberries, her presence finally lighting up the room. The maids and staff smile warmly as they witness the Duke finally sharing food with both sons. Walking alone later, LeBlaine wanders down the stairs, her stomach growling from eating too little earlier. A sudden, sharp gasp sounding, LeBlaine stops in the hallway as a strange, chilling sensation overtakes her. A dark and ominous presence whispers from behind a heavy door, calling out for its long-lost baby.